You are not a man enough. No kids, no wife. You are just a walking ATM. My brother's wife said, and everyone laughed at the family party. Even my parents laughed. I smiled and calmly left without another word. I was going to make them laugh more, but this time, at the wrong side of their mouths. Hello. Thank you for your continuous support. This means a lot to us. If you enjoy the stories we share, kindly subscribe to this channel. It will be great if you can leave a comment on which city you are watching from. We might just give you a shout out in our next story. Today's special shout out goes to Ken from Liverpool, UK. We are glad you enjoy our stories. Now let's dive into the details of today's story. I'm James Carver. I'm 40 now, and I guess you could say I've done all right for myself. Build a real estate business from nothing, just me, a beat-up laptop, and a lot of late nights. No wife, no kids, but that's okay. I had my family, my parents, my little brother Mike, his wife Lisa, and their 2 kids. I worked hard so they wouldn't have to. Gave them houses, cars, money every month. It felt good, you know? Like I was the big brother fixing everything. That night, though, it was late summer, warm enough that the crickets were still chirping outside one of my big houses that I wasn't living in. I'd thrown a party for them. Catered food, fancy drinks, the works. Cost me a couple grand, but I didn't care. I was leaning against the kitchen counter, sipping a beer, watching them laugh and eat. Mom was slicing cake, Dad was telling some old story, and the kids were running around with sticky hands. Mike and Lisa were on the couch, her feet in his lap. It was loud, messy, perfect. My chest felt full, like I'd done something right. Then Lisa opened her mouth. She'd had a few glasses of wine, her cheeks were pink, her voice loud. She looked at me, smirked, and said, "You're not man enough, James. No kids, no wife. You're just a walking ATM." The room went quiet for a split second. Then boom, laughter. Mike threw his head back, cackling. Mom and Dad chuckled, like it was the funniest thing they'd ever heard. Even the kids giggled, though I'm pretty sure they didn't get it. I stood there, beer halfway to my mouth, feeling my face burn. My own family. Laughing at me. Not with me, at me. I forced a smile. You know that fake one you slap on when you're dying inside? Yeah, that. Funny, I said, real quiet. Set my beer down, grabbed my keys off the counter, and walked out. No big scene, no shouting. Just the sound of my boots on the hardwood, then the screen door slamming behind me. Their laughter followed me all the way to my car. I slid into the driver's seat, a black pickup I bought cash, and just sat there, hands on the wheel. My mind was racing. I saw myself at 20 working construction to pay Mom and Dad's bills after Dad lost his job. Saw myself handing Mike the keys to his first house, grinning like an idiot. Saw the late nights, the holidays I skipped, the dates I canceled, also they could have what I never did. And they laughed, called me an ATM, like I was nothing but a wallet with legs. My hands tightened on the wheel till my knuckles went white. I could still hear Lisa's voice, sharp and mean. Something snapped inside me, not loud, not dramatic, just a quiet break. I was done. Done being their punching bag. Done being the fool who paid for their lies while they mocked mine. I started the engine. The hum drowned out the crickets. My phone buzzed, probably Mike, probably clueless, but I didn't look. I just stared out the windshield, the big house glowing in the dark, full of people who didn't deserve me. They'll laugh on the wrong side of their mouths, I muttered. Then I hit the gas and peeled out. Next morning, I called my accountant. Cut them off, I said. All of them. And that was just the start. So there I was, peeling out of the driveway, their laughter still ringing in my ears. The pickup's engine growled as I hit the gas harder than I needed to, street lights blurring past. I didn't go far, just to my place, a big empty house that felt more like a showroom than a home. Garage door slid up, I pulled in, and sat there, hands gripping the wheel. My phone buzzed. Mike, probably, or Mom, but I didn't check. I just stared into the dark, feeling that snap inside me settle into something cold and solid. They were done getting my help. Done getting me. Next morning came fast, gray lights sneaking through the blinds. I hadn't slept, couldn't. My living room was dead quiet, just me and a half-empty coffee mug. I grabbed my phone, ignored the missed calls piling up, and dialed Pete, my accountant. He picked up quick, voice rough like he'd just woken up. "Pete, I need you to cut them off." I said, "No hello, no warm-up." Mom, Dad, Mike, Lisa, the works. No more money. Freeze their cards. Now. He popped his gum, loud in my ear. You sure? That's a big chunk. 50 grand a month, right? Positive. And get their houses listed. The bungalow, Mike's place, the condo. On the market by Friday. James, he started, but I wasn't in the mood. No questions. Do it. I hung up, set the phone down hard on the counter. My hands didn't shake, not even a twitch. But my gut twisted, like I was jumping off a cliff I couldn't see the bottom of. By noon, Pete texted, done. Account's locked. Realtors on it. I grabbed my keys, headed to my office downtown. It's this glass tower, all sharp lines and shiny floors. Bought it cash a few years back. My desk's this huge oak thing, too big for one guy, but it felt right today. Pulled up the deeds on my laptop. Mom and Dad's bungalow, Mike's house with the pool, the condo I'd kept empty since Lisa's mom passed. All mine. I'd signed every check, every contract. Never asked for thanks, just wanted them safe. Now, I'd use it to take it all back. Phone buzzed again, Mike. I let it ring out, watched his name blink till it quit. Then Mom, her voice shaky in a voicemail I skipped. Dad next. Jimmy, call us. Short, gruff, like always. Lisa didn't call, she texted. Petty little man. I snorted. Petty? Sure, but I'd show her little. That afternoon, I drove out to watch it start. First up, Mom and Dad's place. Little bungalow with a porch I'd rebuilt myself, hammer in hand, 10 summers ago. Pulled into the driveway as a realtor. This lady with a clipboard and a blazer jammed a for sale sign into the grass. Mom shuffled out, apron dusted with flour, her face crumpling when she saw me. Jimmy, she called, voice wobbly. I didn't answer, just gave a nod through the windshield and pulled away. Her eyes, wide, lost, burned into me, but I shook it off. Next stop, Mike's house. Big, fancy, with that pool out back I'd paid for so the kids could swim. Another realtor was there, snapping pics with a phone. Mike's BMW gleamed in the driveway, waxed to death, but useless now without my cash. Lisa stood on the porch, arms crossed, hair messy like she'd just rolled out of bed. Coward, she yelled as I cruised by, slow enough to see her glare. I kept driving, face blank, heart thumping. Last was the condo. Small place, quiet street. I kept it up after Lisa's mom died, new paint, new fridge, just in case. Now a sign went up there too, sharp and white against the brick. By the time the sun dipped low, all three were tagged, marked for sale. Their lives unraveling with every hammer swing. Back home, I poured a whiskey, cheap stuff, burned my throat just right, and sank into my couch. Phone wouldn't quit buzzing. Mike's voice now, pissed. The cards aren't working, man. What's going on? Mom, softer. Jimmy, we didn't mean it. Please. Dad, this ain't right. I sipped slow, let the calls stack up like firewood. They'd figure it out soon enough. I wasn't always this guy, you know. Back when we were kids, we had nothing. Dad's factory shut down when I was 12. Mom scrubbed floors till her hands cracked. Then Sarah, my little sister, got sick. Leukemia stole oration her fast. She was 16, all bony elbows and big smiles, even when her hair fell out. I'd sit by her bed, sneaking her candy, telling her I'd fix it all. She'd laugh, weak but real, and say, "You're the best, Jimmy." She died anyway. I was 20, broke, punching walls. Promised myself I'd never let them struggle again, Mom, Dad, Mike. Built my life around that promise. And they'd laughed. Next day, it hit them. Mike showed up at my office, banging on the glass, till the front desk buzzed him in. He looked rough, stubble thick, shirt half-tucked. James, what's this? The house is for sale? The money's gone? Lisa's freaking out. The kids don't get it. I leaned back in my chair, cool as winter. You laughed, Mike. Called me an ATM. So I'm done being one. It was a joke, he yelled, face turning blotchy red. You're taking us over a dumb joke? Didn't feel dumb to me. I got up, walked to the window, stared at the city I'd clawed my way into. Get out. He stood there, breathing hard, then cursed and left, door slamming behind him. I watched him stomp off, feeling something not joy, not sadness, just steady, like I'd finally said no. That night, I made a mistake, opened X. Lisa had posted, James Carver's a monster who'd rather see us homeless than take a joke. Family means nothing to him. Hundreds of likes, comments piling up. What a jerk. Rich asshole. People who didn't know me, didn't know I'd skipped my own life to give them theirs. I wanted to type back, tell them everything, but I tossed the phone on the couch instead. Let her yap. Let the world judge. They'd see soon enough. I poured another drink, leaned back, and let a small, hard smile creep up. The houses would sell quick. I'd made sure of that. 30 days, and they'd be out. And I wasn't close to done. The whiskey was still warm in my throat when I set the glass down that night, Lisa's ex-post glowing on my phone. Monster, she'd called me. Hundreds of strangers agreeing, their words like little knives. I locked the screen, tossed it aside, and stared at the ceiling. Fine, let them talk. They didn't know the half of it, and I wasn't going to waste my breath explaining. The houses were selling. That's what mattered. 30 days, and they'd be out. I leaned back, closed my eyes, and waited for the storm to hit. It didn't take long. Next morning, my realtors called, one after another, voices chipper like they'd won the lottery. Bungalows got a cash offer, James. Mike's place, bidding war already. Condos under contract. I'd priced them low, just enough to move fast. By lunchtime, all three were locked in. I texted back, close quick. 30-day escrow. Done. No turning back now. First to crack was Mike. He called while I was eating a sandwich at my desk. Ham and cheese, nothing fancy. I let it ring, but he left a voicemail, voice all high and tight. The realtor says we're out in a month, man. Lisa can't stop crying. The kids keep asking why we're moving. Fix this, James. Fix it. Like I was the one who broke it. I deleted the message, took another bite, and kept scrolling emails. My inbox was full, clients, not family. Work kept me steady. By week's end, they started scrambling. I drove by Mom and Dad's place one evening, slow enough to see, but not stop. The for sale sign had a sold sticker slapped on it. Cardboard boxes were stacked on the porch, Dad wrestling them into a rusty pickup he hadn't driven in years. Mom stood by the door, arms wrapped around herself, staring at the lawn like it might swallow her. I didn't wave, just kept driving, my chest tight, but my hands firm on the wheel. Mike's house was worse. I swung by Saturday morning, early, sun barely up. The pool was still, no kids splashing like usual. Lisa was out front, shoving suitcases into that BMW while Mike hauled a lamp to the curb. Their new place, a duplex across town, popped up on my radar 'cause I'd run the address. Peeling paint, cracked driveway, half the size of what they had. The kids sat on the steps, Sophie hugging her knees, Ben kicking a rock. I slowed, just for a second, and Lisa spotted me. "You happy now?" she screamed, voice cracking. I hit the gas, her glare burning holes in my rear view. The condo sold quiet, no fuss, no family to move out. Just a lockbox and a new owner's name on the deed. By Monday, they were all gone from my properties. Mom and Dad in a one-bedroom apartment, walls thin enough to hear the neighbor's TV. Mike and Lisa in that duplex, kids sharing a room now. The BMW and Mom's Mercedes sat in their new driveways, gleaming but useless, insurance lapsed, gas too pricey without my cash. I told Pete to let them keep the titles. Small mercy, I guess. Didn't feel like one. Then Lisa's post blew up. I'd ignored it at first, but by midweek, it was everywhere. X, some local news blog, even a blurry photo of me from years back, captioned "Millionaire kicks family to curb." Comments piled up. Disgusting. Hope he rots. A few defended me. Sounds like they had it coming, but most didn't care. Didn't know I'd paid Mom's medical bills when her heart acted up, or put Sophie and Ben through private school. I scrolled it all one night, whiskey in hand again, feeling the heat rise in my face. Wanted to smash something. Didn't. Just turned off the phone and sat in the dark. Mike showed up Friday, banging on my office door till security let him through. I was mid-meeting, some developer pitching a strip mall, but I waved him in. He looked like a mess. Unshaven, eyes red, shirt untucked. "You're killing us, James," he yelled, loud enough my client flinched. "The kids lost their school. Lisa's a wreck. We can't pay rent. You happy now?" I stood, slow, kept my voice low. "You laughed, Mike. All of you. Called me an ATM. I gave you everything, houses, cars, cash, and you laughed. It was one stupid night. He stepped closer, fist balled. You're tearing us apart over one dumb joke. Felt pretty smart to you then. I walked past him, stared out my window at the city lights. I worked my whole life for you. No vacations, no family of my own. And you laughed. He didn't say anything for a minute, just breathed hard. Then, you're a bastard. Door slammed, and he was gone. I sat back down, nodded at the developer. Keep going, I said, like nothing happened. But my hands shook under the desk, just for a second. That weekend, I went dark. No phone, no ex, just me in the house. Poured another drink, flipped through old photos on my shelf. Me and Sarah, her grinning with a popsicle, me awkward in a too big shirt. She'd been the spark, died at 16, left me promising I'd hold the family together. Found a shot of Mike's wedding, me in a suit, handing him the keys to that house, smiling like an idiot. Mom and Dad at their bungalow, cutting the ribbon I'd tied on the door. All those years, grinding, building, giving. For them. And it was ashes now. Sunday night, I cracked. Drove to a bar downtown. Dive place, sticky floors, neon buzzing. Sat in a corner, nursing a beer, watching people laugh like it didn't hurt. Guy next to me, some grizzled trucker, nodded. Rough week, he asked. Rough life? I said, half a laugh. He didn't push, just clinked his bottle against mine. I stayed, till closing, letting the noise drown out the quiet in my head. Felt good, almost. Like I'd won. But winning tasted bitter, like old coffee left too long. Monday hit, and the calls started again. Mom this time, voice thin. Jimmy, we're sorry. We should have stopped it. Please talk to us. I didn't delete it, just let it sit there, unplayed. Drove home late, city lights smearing past. Pulled into my garage, cut the engine, and sat. Something was shifting, but I couldn't name it. Then my phone lit up. Sophie, Mike's girl, a text. Uncle Jimmy, why don't you love us anymore? 10 years old, her little words like a punch. I stared at it, beer still bitter on my tongue, and didn't answer. Couldn't. Not yet. Sophie's text glowed on my phone screen that night. Her words small but heavy. Uncle Jimmy, why don't you love us anymore? I sat there in my dark garage, engine ticking as it cooled, beer still sour on my tongue. 10 years old, and she'd cut right through me. Didn't answer, couldn't figure out what to say. Just locked the phone, climbed out of the truck, and went inside. The house was too quiet, shadows stretching across the hardwood. I tossed my keys on the counter, louder than I meant to, and stood there, staring at nothing. Next day, I kept moving. Had to. Work was my anchor. Meetings, contracts, calls about a new office build downtown. Kept my hands busy, my mind sharp. But Sophie's question stuck, like a splinter I couldn't pull out. Mom's voicemail too, that soft, we're sorry, Jimmy looping in my head. I didn't play it again, but I didn't delete it either. Just let it sit, a weight I wasn't ready to lift. Friday rolled around, and I got roped into a charity gala, some clients' invite I couldn't dodge. Black tie, big ballroom, all chandeliers and fake smiles. I tugged at my collar, feeling like a kid in Dad's old suit, and grabbed a whiskey from the open bar. Stood by a wall, watching rich folks mingle, their laughs too loud, too easy. Then this woman walked up. Elena, she said, shaking my hand firm. Short hair, sharp eyes, dressed simple but classy. You're James Carver, right? The real estate guy. Yeah, I said, sipping my drink, waiting for the usual pitch. People always wanted something. She didn't pitch, just tilted her head, sizing me up. You look like you'd rather be anywhere else. Got me there. I cracked half a smile, first real one in weeks. She ran a nonprofit, kids from rough homes, giving them books, meals, a shot at something better. Talked about it like it was her whole world, not just a job. Then she hit me with it. You've got all this power, James, all this money. What's it for if you're standing here alone? No judgment, just a question, but it landed hard. I mumbled something about work, brushed it off. She handed me her card anyway, said, think about it, and walked off, leaving me with that whiskey and a buzz in my head. Saturday, I couldn't shake her. Drove past Mike's old house, new family moving in, kids chasing a dog in the yard. Felt strange, like a page ripped out of my book. Ended up at my storage unit downtown, a concrete box full of junk I'd kept from Sarah's room after she passed. Dug through boxes, old toys, faded drawings, till I found it. Her letter, scrawled in purple pen, shaky from the meds, dated a week before she died. Jimmy, it said, you're the best brother. Don't forget to live for you too, okay? Love, Sarah. I'd read it 100 times back then, but now it stung fresh. Sat on the cold floor, letter in my hands, her voice whispering in my skull. Had I forgotten? Sunday, Sophie hit me again. Not a text, a note, mailed to my office, slipped under the door when I wasn't there. Picked it up Monday morning, her kid handwriting on a torn notebook page. Uncle Jimmy, I miss you. Dad says you're mad, but I didn't laugh. Please come back. A little heart at the bottom, wobbly but hers. I folded it, stuck it in my pocket, and felt my throat tighten. She hadn't laughed. She was just a kid caught in the mess I'd made. That afternoon, I did something stupid, drove to Elena's nonprofit. Place was a rundown storefront, sign peeling, but inside it was alive. Kids reading, laughing, paint on their fingers. Elena spotted me through a window, waved me in. Didn't expect you, she said, smirking, handing me a coffee in a chipped mug. Didn't expect me either, I admitted, taking it. She showed me around, tiny library, kitchen pumping out soup smells, a wall of thank you notes from kids. One girl, maybe 12, looked like Sarah, same skinny frame, same quiet smile. Elena caught me staring. That's Mia. Lost her mom last year. She's tough, though. I nodded, couldn't talk for a second. Sarah's letter burned in my back pocket. Sophie's note right beside it. How do you do it? I asked finally. Keep going, I mean. For them. She shrugged. Simple. They're worth it. Somebody's got to show up. Then she looked at me, straight on. What about you? Who are you showing up for? I didn't have an answer. Left a check. 10 grand. And signed. Just slid it under a stack of papers. And walked out. Got in my truck, sat there in the parking lot, engine off. The air was thick, late summer pressing in. Sophie's note crinkled as I pulled it out, read it again. I didn't laugh. She hadn't. Moms were sorry, echoed too, frail but real. Mike and Lisa, though, they hadn't said a word. Still proud, still waiting for me to cave. Back home, I paced. Kitchen to living room, boots loud on the floor. Looked at my life. Big house, fat bank account, nothing else. Elena's question rattled me. What's it for if you're alone? Sarah's letter answered, live for you too. Sophie's note begged, come back. I'd torn them down, watched them fall, felt that hard little victory. But now it was cracking, like ice under too much weight. Tuesday, I hit the bar again. Same dive, same sticky floors. Trucker was there, nodded like we were old pals. Still rough? He asked, bottle clinking mine. Getting rougher, I said, sipping slow. Told him bits, Lisa's jab, the houses, Sophie's note. Didn't say my name, didn't need to. He listened, grumbled, family's a damn mess sometimes. Yeah, I said, staring at the neon buzzing over the bar. Sometimes. Drove home late. City quiet except for the hum of my engine. Pulled into the garage, cut the lights, and sat there, Sophie's note still in my pocket. I'd won, hadn't I? They were out, struggling, learning their lesson. But her little heart on that page wouldn't let go. Neither would Sarah's purple scrawl or Mom's shaky voice. I gripped the wheel, breathed slow, and felt it, the crack widening. Something had to give. I just didn't know what yet. That night in the garage, Sophie's note still crinkling in my pocket, I couldn't sit still. The truck's engine was cold, the house dark, but my head wouldn't quit. Sarah's letter, Mom's voicemail, Elena's question, they swirled together, loud and messy. I'd torn it all down, houses sold, money cut, family scattered. Felt good at first, like I'd won something. But now, with Sophie's little heart staring up at me, it didn't feel like winning anymore. It felt like a hole I dug too deep to climb out of. Next morning, I made coffee black, strong, burned my tongue. Stood at the kitchen counter, staring at my phone. Mom's message still sat there, unplayed since last week. I hit play this time, held my breath. Her voice came soft, cracked. Jimmy, we're sorry. We should have stopped Lisa, should have said something. We miss you. Please talk to us. It cut off, just like that. No guilt trips, no begging for cash, just sorry. I played it again, then set the phone down slow. Sorry wasn't enough, but it was something. I drove to work, windows down, city air sharp against my face. Sophie's note rode shotgun, flapping in the breeze. I didn't laugh, she'd written. She hadn't. Neither had been. Her little brother just watched, confused, while the adults cackled. Mike and Lisa, though, they'd led the charge, and I hadn't heard a peep from them. No apology, no nothing. That stuck in my craw, hard. Midweek, I caved, called Mom back. She picked up fast, like she'd been waiting. "Jimmy," she said, hopeful, scared. "Yeah, it's me." My voice sounded rough and used. "Heard your message." "We meant it," she said quick. "Me and Dad, we didn't know it'd hurt you like that. We're so sorry." I could hear Dad in the background, grumbling agreement. His pride didn't but there. "Okay," I said, not sure what else to give. "How you holding up?" "It's tight," she admitted. "Apartment's small, bills are piling, but we're managing. Just miss you is all." I nodded, though she couldn't see. "Miss you too." Hung up after that, short and awkward, but it was a start. Didn't call Mike, let him stew. Lisa either. They'd have to come to me. Thursday, I went back to Elena's nonprofit. Couldn't stay away, not after that girl Mia, the one who looked like Sarah. Pulled up in the afternoon, sun beating down, kids spilling out onto a cracked playground. Elena met me at the door, coffee mug in hand again. "Back so soon," she teased, but her eyes were warm. "Guess so," I said, stepping inside. The place smelled like crayons and soup, noisy with life. She showed me a new project, bookshelves they couldn't afford. "Kids need more than handouts," she said. "They need something to hold on to." I wrote another check, 20 grand this time, still unsigned, slipped it into her desk drawer when she wasn't looking. Watched Mia read to a smaller kid, her voice steady, and felt Sarah there, somehow. Elena caught me staring again. "You're not just here for the coffee, are you?" "Nah," I said, half a laugh. "Maybe I'm figuring something out." Friday, Sophie's school called. Old private place I'd paid for till I didn't. Secretary said she'd been dropped, couldn't afford it now. I pictured her in that duplex, sharing a room, no pool to splash in. Ben too, stuck in public school they weren't ready for. Guilt twisted my gut, but I pushed it down. Mike could have called. Lisa could have swallowed her pride. They hadn't. Saturday, I made my move. Met Mom and Dad at a diner. Greasy spoon, smelled like bacon and burnt toast. They looked older, thinner, Dad's hands shaky on his mug. "We're not asking for the old days," Mom said, eyes wet. "Just you." "I'm here," I said, simple. "No houses, no big checks. But I'll help. Rent some bills. You gotta work too, though." They nodded, fast, like kids promising to behave. I paid the tab, left a big tip. Felt lighter walking out. Mike finally cracked Sunday. Showed up at my house, not the office, my front door. Looking like he hadn't slept in days. "James," he started, voice low. "I messed up. We all did. Lisa's still mad, but I'm here. The kids, they're hurting. Sophie wrote me," I said, leaning on the doorframe, arms crossed. Said she didn't laugh. "She didn't," he said quick. "She's been asking for you nonstop." I let him in, poured coffee, sat him down. "I'll help the kids," I said. "School fees, basics. Not you, not Lisa, not till she owns it." He nodded, slow, defeated. "Fair. I'm sorry, man." "Really?" "All right," I said, and that was that. No hugs, no big scene, just a line drawn. Lisa never called. Heard from Mike she'd doubled down, ranting to anyone who'd listen. Marriage was shaky, he said. I didn't care much, her choice, her mess. Weeks later, I bought a new place, not a mansion, just a house. 2 bedrooms, porch out front, trees in the yard. Moved in slow, couch, bed, a few boxes. Hung Sarah's photo in the living room, her grin watching me unpack. Felt right, like a fresh page. Elena came by one night, pizza in hand, kids' drawings tucked under her arm. "Housewarming," she said, smirking. We ate on the floor, laughed about nothing, and I thought maybe this was what Sarah meant. Living for me too. Sophie visited that spring, been tagging along. They ran around the yard, yelling free. Mike dropped them off, quiet, working 2 jobs now. "Thanks," he said, eyes down. I nodded, let it be. Mom and Dad came too, sometimes, bringing pie or stories, fitting into this smaller life I'd carved out. One night, I drove past the old estate, big house I'd sold, lights on for someone else. Didn't stop, just kept going, windows down, air cool against my skin. The hole I dug was gone, filled in with something real, not revenge, not money, just me. I wasn't their ATM anymore. Wasn't their punching bag either. I was James, and that was enough. All right, that's my story, James Carver. Done being the ATM, finally finding my own way. What about you? Ever had to cut ties or rebuild from scratch? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm reading every one. And if you like this ride, hit that subscribe button. More stories are coming, raw and real, just like this. See you next time. The day I told my wife I lost my job, she smirked and replied, "You lost me as well. I want divorce." I pressed for the reason and she said, "I married you for your money. No money, no love." So I accepted and she left to be with her lover. What happened next will shock you. Hello, thank you for your continuous support. This means a lot to us. If you enjoy the stories we share, kindly subscribe to this channel. It will be great if you can leave a comment on which city you are watching from. We might just give you a shout out in our next story. Today's special shout out goes to Andrew from Hamburg, Germany. We are glad you enjoy our stories. Now let's dive into the details of today's story. I'd always known Laura had a thing for the finer stuff. Designer bags, dinners that cost more than my car payment. But I never thought it'd come to this. That night, I sat her down on our leather couch, the one she'd insisted we buy because it screamed success, and I dropped the bomb. "I lost my job today," I said, keeping my voice steady, my eyes locked on hers. It was a lie, of course. My consultancy gig was already pulling in cash, more than the mid-level management grind I'd been stuck in for years. But she didn't know that. I needed to see what she'd do, who she really was when the chips were down. Her reaction hit me like a slap. She didn't cry or ask how we'd manage. She smirked, just a quick twist of her lips, like she'd been waiting for an excuse. "Well," she said, leaning back, crossing her arms, "you lost me too. I want a divorce." I blinked, the words sinking in slow, like mud settling in a puddle. I'd suspected she'd been drifting. Late nights, vague excuses, that new perfume I didn't recognize, but hearing it out loud? That was a gut punch. "Why?" I asked, though I already knew. I wanted her to say it, to rip the mask off herself right there. She didn't hesitate. "I married you for your money, Daniel. No money, no love. Simple as that." Her voice was cold, clipped, like she was reading a grocery list. She stood, grabbed her phone, and started texting. "I'm going to Mark's. We're done." Mark. The name wasn't a surprise. I'd seen his flashy BMW parked outside our house once, when she'd claimed it was a client dropping off papers. I let it slide, too tired or too naive to push. Now it made sense. "You're leaving?" "Just like that," I said, standing too, my hands clenched at my sides. She didn't even look up from her phone. "What's the point of staying? You can't give me what I need anymore." And with that, she walked to the bedroom, packed a bag, and headed for the door. I could have stopped her. Could have told her the truth, that I hadn't lost a damn thing, that my consultancy was already outpacing my old salary, that I'd been testing her. But I didn't. I stood there, silent, watching her heels click across the hardwood floor I'd paid for. The door slammed behind her, and the house went quiet. Too quiet. I sank back onto the couch, staring at the spot where she'd been, her words echoing in my head. No money, no love. Part of me wanted to chase her, to yell that she'd failed the test, that I'd caught her out. But another part, the part that had been whispering doubts for months, felt something else. Relief. Like a weight I hadn't known I was carrying had finally slipped off my shoulders. I'd spent 5 years building a life with her, thinking she loved me, not my paycheck. Now I knew better. I grabbed my laptop from the coffee table and opened it. The screen glowed with emails from clients. Real ones, not the fake papers Mark dropped off. My consultancy wasn't just a side hustle anymore. It was my future. I'd started it a year ago, tired of the corporate hamster wheel, and it had taken off faster than I dreamed. A tech startup in Boston had signed on last week, a 6-figure deal. Laura didn't know any of it. She'd never asked about my late nights or the calls I took in the garage. She'd been too busy planning her next shopping spree. I leaned back, running a hand through my hair. The lie had been a gamble, sure, but it had paid off in a way I hadn't expected. I didn't have to wonder anymore. Laura wasn't my wife. She was a tenant who just stopped paying rent. And now she was gone, off to Mark's, probably thinking she'd traded up. Let her. I didn't need her tears or her excuses. I needed the truth, and I'd gotten it. Still, as I sat there, the silence pressed in. The house felt too big, too empty. I'd built it for us, for her, and now it was just me. I thought about calling my brother, Jake, to tell him what had happened, but I didn't. Not yet. This was mine to carry for now. I closed the laptop, stood, and walked to the kitchen. I poured a glass of whiskey, the good stuff Laura hated because it wasn't classy enough, and raised it to the empty room. To freedom, I muttered, and took a sip. The burn felt good, sharp, like a reset. I didn't know what came next. Divorce papers, probably, and whatever mess Laura would drag me into with Mark. But I knew one thing. I wasn't broken. Not even close. She walked out thinking she'd left me with nothing, but she was wrong. I had my business, my pride, and a hell of a lot more fight than she'd ever given me credit for. Let her run to Mark. Let her think she'd won. I'd show her what winning really looked like. And that was the moment I decided this wasn't the end. It was the start. 3 months after Laura walked out, I was a different man. Not just because I ditched the old suburban house for a sleek apartment downtown, or because my consultancy had me rubbing elbows with CEOs instead of middle managers. It was deeper than that. I'd stopped looking over my shoulder, waiting for her to come back with some half-baked apology. I'd stopped caring. And damn, it felt good. The morning she left, I toasted to freedom with a glass of whiskey. Now, I was living it. My business wasn't just surviving. It was exploding. That tech startup in Boston? They doubled their contract after I streamlined their operations. Word got around, and soon I had a waiting list. Retail chains, app developers, even a law firm with a corner office fancier than anything I'd ever dreamed of. I hired 2 assistants, rented a space with a view of the city skyline, and traded my beat-up sedan for a black Audi that purred like a promise. People started recognizing me at networking events, shaking my hand, calling me the guy who turns chaos into cash. I liked the sound of that. I'd moved on in other ways too. The house went on the market the week after Laura left, too many echoes of her in those rooms, her voice nagging about curtains or countertops. I didn't need it anymore. My new place was all glass and steel, minimalist, mine. I'd started hitting the gym again, something I'd let slide during the marriage, and the guy staring back in the mirror looked sharper, stronger. I even went on a few dates, nothing serious, just coffee or drinks with women I met through work. They were nice, smart, but I kept my guard up. Laura had taught me that lesson the hard way. Still, she wasn't gone completely. Not yet. Divorce papers were in the works. My lawyer, a pit bull named Karen, was handling it, but Laura hadn't signed. She texted once, a week after she bolted, something vague about needing space to think. I didn't reply. Let her think whatever she wanted with Mark. I had better things to do. That afternoon, I was leaving a meeting with a new client, a boutique hotel chain, when I saw it. My Audi, parked outside a cafe I'd stopped at for a quick espresso. Nothing unusual, except for who was standing next to it. Laura. She was across the street, frozen mid-step, staring at the car like it was a ghost. I ducked into the cafe doorway before she spotted me, watching her through the glass. She looked different, hair Messier, no designer bag slung over her shoulder. She squinted at the license plate, then pulled out her phone, typing fast. I smirked. She'd figured it out. I'd kept my success quiet at first, not wanting her to come sniffing around. But secrets don't stay secret in a city this size. Friends we'd shared, hers mostly, had started asking questions. Heard you're killing it, Dan. One said at a bar a month back. What's the story? I'd shrugged, played it cool, but the rumors spread. Laura must have heard them too, and now here she was, piecing it together. The Audi was proof. She'd always hated my old car, called it embarrassing. This one, she'd have drooled over it. I slipped out the cafe's side exit and drove off before she could catch me. No point in a confrontation. Not yet. But it got me thinking. What was her life like now? Mark, with his BMW and his big talk, had swept her off her feet, but I'd done some digging. A quick call to a mutual friend, Pete, had filled in the blanks. Mark's entrepreneur gig was a house of cards. Over-leveraged, late on payments, temper flaring when the cash ran dry. Pete said Laura had been at his place last week, complaining about Mark's moods. I didn't feel sorry for her. She'd picked her prize. Back at my apartment that night, I poured a glass of whiskey, same bottle from the night she left, and sat by the window, looking out at the city lights. I'd won, hadn't I? The test had worked. I'd flushed out her true colors. built something better without her. So why did I still feel that itch, that nag in my chest? Maybe because it wasn't over. She'd seen the car. She knew I wasn't the broke loser she'd left behind. And Laura didn't let go of anything she thought she could still claim. I took a sip, the burn steadying me. My phone buzzed, an email from Karen. Laura's stalling on the papers, it read. Says she wants to talk. I set the phone down hard. Talk. After no money, no love? She had some nerve. I pictured her with Mark, counting his dwindling stack of bills, then hearing about my new life, my car, my clients, my freedom. She'd be stewing now, regretting it. Good. Let her stew. I stood, pacing the room. The test had been my idea, sure, but I hadn't planned what came next. If she came back, begging, what would I say? I'd told myself I was done, that she'd never get another shot. But part of me, the part that still remembered her laugh, her touch, wondered if I'd listen. I shook it off. That was the old Daniel talking, the one who'd let her walk all over him. The new Daniel? He didn't bend. I raised my glass again, this time to the man I'd become. To winning, I said aloud. But as I drank, I couldn't shake the feeling that Laura wasn't done playing either. And whatever move she made next, I'd be ready. I should have known Laura wouldn't let it go that easy. 3 months of silence after she'd stormed out, and now here she was, standing at my apartment door on a rainy afternoon, looking like a drowned cat who'd just remembered where the food was. I'd been in the middle of a call with a client, a chain of gyms wanting my help, when the buzzer went off. I ignored it at first, figuring it was a delivery guy with the wrong address. Then it buzzed again, insistent, and I checked the camera. Her face stared back, puffy-eyed, mascara streaked. My stomach twisted, but not with pity, more like dread. I ended the call and let her in. Not because I wanted to, but because I needed to hear what she'd say. She stepped inside, dripping water on my hardwood floor, and I didn't offer her a towel. She glanced around, taking in the sleek furniture, the view of the city through the glass walls, and her jaw tightened. Nice place, she said, her voice thin, like she was trying to sound casual. I leaned against the counter, arms crossed. What do you want, Laura? She didn't answer right away. She set her bag down, some cheap knockoff instead of the Gucci she used to flaunt, and ran a hand through her wet hair. I made a mistake, she said finally, her eyes meeting mine. I shouldn't have left. I want to come back. I almost laughed. Almost. Instead, I stayed quiet, letting her squirm. She took a step closer. I heard about your business. Everyone's talking about you, Daniel. I didn't know. How could I? You didn't tell me. There it was. The blame. I'd seen it coming the second she walked in. So this is my fault? I said, keeping my tone flat. You leaving because I lost my job? That's on me? She flinched, but only for a second. Then the tears started, right on cue. You tricked me, she said, her voice breaking. You lied about the job. If I'd known about the consultancy, I wouldn't have gone. I thought you were broke, Daniel. You made me think that. I clenched my fists, fighting the urge to shout. I didn't make you do anything, I said. You walked out. You said it yourself. No money, no love. That was all you. She shook her head, stepping closer, reaching for my arm. I pulled back. I was upset, she said. Confused. Mark was there, and I messed up. But I love you. I always did. Let me fix this. Her words hit me like a cheap shot. Love? She didn't even know the meaning. I thought about the nights I'd spent wondering if she'd ever cared. The mornings I'd woken up to her texting someone else, Mark, probably, while I made her coffee. I'd been blind then, but not anymore. You don't love me, I said, stepping away. You love what I can give you. And when you thought that was gone, you ran to the next guy with a fat wallet. How's that working out, by the way? Mark still footing the bill? Her face went red, and the tears stopped fast. He's a jerk, she snapped. Broke, too. I left him last week. But that's not why I'm here. I mean it, Daniel. We can start over. You don't have to be alone. Alone. The word stung more than I'd expected, but not enough to sway me. I looked at her, really looked, and saw the desperation, the calculation behind her eyes. She wasn't here for me. She was here for the Audi, the clients, the life she'd thrown away. No, I said, my voice hard. We're done. I'd rather be single than with someone who only loves my wallet. She froze, her mouth opening like she had a comeback, then shutting again. I walked to the door and held it open. Sign the papers, Laura. Karen's waiting. For a second, I thought she'd beg more, but she didn't. She grabbed her bag, shot me a glare that could have cut glass, and stormed out. The door clicked shut, and I let out a breath I hadn't known I was holding. I stood there, staring at the spot where she'd been. My chest ached, not for her, but for the years I'd wasted believing her lies. The test had been my idea, yeah, but I hadn't expected this. Her coming back, blaming me, acting like I owed her a second chance. I grabbed my phone and texted Karen. She was here. Pushed the divorce through fast. Then I sank onto the couch, replaying her words. You tricked me. Maybe I had. But she'd failed the test all on her own. Later, I poured a whiskey and sat by the window, watching the rain streak the glass. I'd won, hadn't I? My business was booming. My life was mine again. So why did I feel like something was still hanging over me? Laura was gone, but she'd left a mark, a reminder of how easy it had been for her to turn on me. I took a sip, the burn grounding me. She begged, and I'd said no. That was power. That was freedom. But as I set the glass down, my phone buzzed. A text from Pete. Heads up. Laura's pissed. Talking trash about you to anyone who'll listen. I smirked, then frowned. Trash talk? Let her try. I'd built this life from nothing, and no one, not her, not Mark, was taking it away. She wanted a fight? She'd get one. I told Laura to sign the papers and get out, but I should have known she wouldn't go quietly. A week after she'd stormed out of my apartment, the first it came. I was in my office, prepping a pitch for a new client, a chain of coffee shops, when my assistant, Jen, poked her head in. You see this yet? She said, holding up her phone. It was a post on X, some local gossip account with a few thousand followers. Daniel Carter's consultancy? Total scam. Overcharges and underdelivers. Check the receipts. Attached were screenshots, emails I'd supposedly sent, promising miracles for cash, then bailing. Fake as hell, but convincing enough to make me sweat. I knew who was behind it before Jen said another word. Laura. She'd threatened to talk trash, and now she'd gone nuclear. I grabbed my phone and called Karen. She's trying to tank me, I said, forwarding the post. Can we sue her for this? Karen's voice was calm, like always. Defamation's tricky, but we'll dig. She's stalling the divorce too, probably thinks this'll leverage you. Sit tight. Sit tight? My inbox was already lighting up, clients asking questions, one canceling a meeting. I slammed the phone down, pacing the room. This wasn't just personal anymore. She'd hit my business, my lifeblood. I spent the next few days firefighting. I met with my biggest clients, Boston Tech, the hotel chain, showing them my real records, proving the emails were garbage. Most stuck with me, but the damage was there. My name was getting dragged online, whispers spreading. I couldn't let it stand. I called Pete, who tipped me off about Laura's ranting. What's she saying? I asked. He hesitated. She's telling people you lied to her, screwed her over in the marriage. Says the consultancy was a secret to cheat her out of money. She's got some barflies buying it. I gritted my teeth. Cheat her? She'd been the one cheating with Mark, with her lies. That's when Karen called back. That's something, she said. Hacked into an old joint account you two had, email backups. Found messages between her and Mark. Dates back a year, Daniel. She was with him before your test. I froze, the phone heavy in my hand. A year, before I'd even thought to lie about the job. Pictures flashed through my head. Her late nights, her work trips, that damn BMW outside our house. I'd been a fool, but not the way she'd claimed. Send me everything, I said. I'm ending this. The evidence was gold. Emails of Laura giggling about Mark's big plans. Text about meeting up while I was at work. One even mentioned me. Daniel's clueless, pays for everything. It wasn't just proof she'd lied, it was a weapon. I didn't feel guilt anymore about the test. She'd been playing me long before I'd played her. I forwarded it all to Karen with one note. Use this. Then I got to work. Laura wanted a war. I'd fight back harder. The next blow came fast. A local journalist, some guy named Tim who'd been sniffing around startups, published a piece based on Laura's fakes. Consultancy con? Insider claims fraud. My phone exploded. Clients, friends, even my gym buddy asking if it was true. I called Tim, kept my cool. You've got bad info, I said. Meet me tomorrow. I'll show you the real story. He agreed, skeptical but curious. I wasn't just defending myself now. I was taking her down. That night, I sat in my apartment, the city lights mocking me through the glass. My business was teetering. 2 more clients had pulled back, waiting to see how this shook out. I poured a whiskey, but didn't drink it. I didn't need the burn tonight. I needed focus. Laura thought she could bury me with lies, but she'd underestimated me. I'd built this from scratch, every deal, every late night, and no one was tearing it apart. Not her, not Mark, not some hack reporter. Karen texted, "Divorce hearings next week. She's dodging, but we'll force it. Evidence is locked." Good. I pulled up the X post again, the fake emails staring back. Then I opened Laura's old messages, reading them cold. "He's boring, Mark. You're the future." I laughed, bitter. Boring? I'd been loyal, steady, while she'd chased a mirage. Mark was broke now, Pete said, his future crumbling. She'd picked wrong, and instead of owning it, she'd come for me. I met Tim the next day at a diner, handing him a folder, her emails, my contracts, bank statements showing every legit dime I'd earned. "She's lying," I said. "Check the dates. She was cheating before I tested her. This is revenge." He flipped through it, eyebrows climbing. "This changes things," he muttered. "Give me a day." I nodded, but I wasn't waiting on him. Laura's next move was coming. I could feel it. She'd lost Mark, lost me, and now she was losing her grip. Desperate people get sloppy. That night, my phone buzzed. "Pete again. She's hitting up a gala tomorrow, business thing. Talking you down to anyone who'll listen." The gala. I'd been invited, networking, big names. I'd planned to skip it, but not now. If she wanted to play this out in public, I'd be there. I set the whiskey down, untouched, and grabbed my suit jacket. She'd started this fight, but I'd finish it. And when I did, she'd wish she'd signed those papers and walked away. The gala was a sea of suits and champagne, a ballroom packed with the city's business crowd. Exactly the kind of place Laura would crash to take me down. I'd almost skipped it, but after Pete's text, I knew I had to show. She'd been clawing at my reputation all week. Fake emails, that hit piece from Tim, and I wasn't letting her have the last word. I walked in, jacket sharp, head high, the folder of evidence tucked under my arm like a loaded gun. If she wanted a fight, she'd get one she'd never forget. The room buzzed with chatter, but I felt eyes on me. Word had spread. Some saw me as the hotshot consultant, others as the guy from the scam rumors. I grabbed a water from the bar, scanning for her. Pete was right. She was here. I spotted her across the floor, working a cluster of suits, her laugh loud, forced. She hadn't seen me yet. I stayed back, letting her dig her hole. Tim, the journalist, slipped in beside me, notepad out. "You sure about this?" he asked. I handed him the folder. "Read it, then watch." He flipped through Laura's emails, her affair with Mark, her mocking me, while I kept my focus on her. She was mid-story, gesturing wild, when her eyes locked on mine. Her smile faltered, just for a second, but she recovered fast, turning back to her audience. I heard my name drop from her lips, sharp like a curse. "He lied to me, ruined me," she was saying, loud enough to draw heads. "His whole business is a fraud." That was my cue. I stepped forward, voice steady. "Funny you mention lies, Laura." The room hushed, all eyes swinging to me. She froze, clutching her glass. I didn't stop. "You've been spreading fakes about my work, emails I never sent. Want to tell them why?" She opened her mouth, but I cut her off, nodding to Tim. "Show them." He held up the folder, reading aloud. Her words, not mine. "Daniel's clueless, pays for everything. Mark's the future." Gasps rippled through the crowd. I kept going. "You were with him a year before I tested you. I lied about the job, sure, but you'd already checked out." Her face went white, then red. "That's not true," she snapped, but her voice shook. I pulled out my phone, scrolled to a bank statement, projected it on a screen behind me, courtesy of Jen, who'd rigged it earlier. "Here's my real work," I said. "Every client, every dollar. No scams, just results." The crowd murmured, heads nodding. Laura lunged forward, spilling her drink. "You set me up. You ruined us." I didn't flinch. "You ruined yourself," I said. "Sign the papers and go." She stood there, trembling, then bolted for the exit, shoving past people. The room erupted, some clapping, others whispering. Tim scribbled fast, grinning. "This is gold," he said. "Peace drops tomorrow. Her story's toast." I nodded, but I didn't feel like celebrating. I'd won, but it tasted bitter. She'd forced this, dragged me through her mess, and I'd had to fight dirty to end it. I left the gala, the noise fading behind me, and drove home in silence. The next morning, Tim's article hit, consultant clears name, X exposed. My phone lit up, clients calling back, new ones reaching out. The coffee shop chain signed on by noon, and Boston Tech up their deal. My business wasn't just safe, it was thriving. Karen texted too. Divorce is final. She signed last night. I sat back in my office chair, staring at the city skyline. It was over. Really over. No more Laura, no more lies. Just me and what I'd built. A week later, I was at a coffee shop, same one where Laura had seen my Audi, when I met Sarah. She bumped into me, spilling her latte, and laughed it off. No drama. We talked easy, real. She ran a nonprofit, didn't care about my car or my clients, just asked about my day. I asked her out, tentative, and she said yes. It wasn't love, not yet, but it was something clean, something honest. After Laura, that was enough. That night, I stood in my office, looking out at the lights. I'd started this with the test, one lie to catch hers, and it had spiraled into a war I hadn't wanted. But I'd come out stronger. The consultancy was mine, built from late nights and hard calls, not her or anyone else. I thought about calling Jake, my brother, to finally tell him everything, but I didn't. He'd hear it soon enough. For now, I just stood there, letting the quiet settle. I'd lost a wife, sure, but I'd found myself. Laura had walked out thinking I'd crumble, that I'd be nothing without her. She'd been wrong. I didn't need her smirk, her greed, her games. I had my work, my pride, and a shot at something real with Sarah. I raised an imaginary glass, no whiskey this time, just air, and toasted the man I'd become. To trust, I said aloud. Not in her, not in anyone else, but in me. And that was the end of it. Or maybe the start. Either way, I was free. And that's how I learned trust isn't given, it's earned. Thanks for sticking with me through this wild ride. What do you think? Did Laura get what she deserved? Or should I have played it differently? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm reading every one. If you like this story, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss what's next. I've got more tales coming, and trust me, you won't want to miss them. See you in the next story. My wife denied me intimacy every night after our wedding for a whole month. When I confronted her, she said, "My body, my choice. You have no right." So I filed for the marriage to be dissolved by the court. What happened next was rather unexpected. Hello. Thank you for your continuous support. This means a lot to us. If you enjoy the stories we share, kindly subscribe to this channel. It will be great if you can leave a comment on which city you are watching from. We might just give you a shout out in our next story. Today's special shout out goes to Jennifer King from West Sussex, UK. We are glad you enjoy our stories. Now let's dive into the details of today's story. I stood at the altar, my palms sweaty, my heart hammering like it was trying to break free. Elena looked perfect. Her white dress hugged her curves, her smile lit up the room, and her eyes locked on mine like I was the only man alive. I'd known her for 2 years, and every moment had led to this, our wedding day. My brother Mark, my best man, elbowed me with a grin. "You're a lucky bastard, Dan," he whispered, loud enough for the front row to chuckle. I smirked back, believing it. The vows came easy, promises of forever, sealed with a kiss that tasted like hope. If I'd known then what I'd know a month later, I'd have walked away right there. The reception was a blur of toasts and laughter. Mark stole the mic, slurring a speech about how I'd always been the big brother who had it all. People laughed. I clapped him on the back. Elena danced with me, her body close, her laugh soft in my ear. I thought it was the start of something real. That night, we stumbled into our new home, my place, now ours, exhausted but happy. I reached for her, expecting the closeness we'd built over months of dating. She pulled away, sharp and sudden. "Not tonight, Daniel," she said, her voice clipped. "My body, my choice." I froze, confused, but nodded. Weddings are stressful, I told myself. She'd come around. She didn't. Night after night, it was the same. I'd lean in, hoping for a spark, and she'd turn cold, arms crossed, eyes anywhere but on me. "My body, my choice," she'd repeat, like a mantra carved in stone. I'd lie there, staring at the ceiling, wondering what I'd done wrong. Was it me? Was she regretting the marriage already? I tried talking to her, asking if she was okay, if I could help. "I'm fine," she'd snap, then bury herself in her phone. The screen glowed late into the night, her fingers tapping out messages she wouldn't let me see. I'd ask who she was texting. "Work," she'd say, too quick, too flat. I wanted to believe her. Days turned into weeks, and the distance grew. She'd leave the house for hours, errands, she claimed, and come back with nothing to show for it. I'd catch her smiling at her phone, a private little curve of her lips she never showed me anymore. At dinner, she'd pick at her food, answering my questions with one-word grunts. "How was your day?" I'd ask. "Fine," she'd mutter. I started noticing things I'd ignored before, how she'd linger over my questions about money, asking about my construction business, my savings, my plans. "Just curious," she'd say with a shrug. I built that company from nothing, poured my life into it. Her interest felt off, like she was cataloging me instead of caring. Mark was around more than usual, too. I'd given him a job at the company a year back, project manager, decent pay. He'd stop by the house unannounced, claiming he needed to check in about work. He'd flop onto the couch, crack a beer, and ask about Elena. "How's the wife treating you?" he'd say, smirking like it was a joke. I'd laugh it off, say she was settling in. He'd nod, but his eyes would flick to her when she walked in, and she'd give him this quick, tight smile. I told myself it was nothing, brothers and wives get along, right? But it gnawed at me, a splinter I couldn't pull out. By the end of the first month, I was a wreck. I'd lie awake while she typed, the blue light of her phone casting shadows on the wall. I'd stopped reaching for her. Rejection stings less when you don't try. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I waited till she fell asleep, her phone buzzing softly on the nightstand. I didn't touch it. Snooping felt dirty, but the sound wouldn't stop. Buzz, buzz, buzz. I got up, paced the hall, trying to shake the paranoia. She was my wife. I'd vowed to trust her. But trust doesn't silence questions. The next night, I heard her voice, low, hushed, coming from the bathroom. I pressed my ear to the door, heart pounding. "He's clueless," she whispered. "Just wait." My stomach dropped. Who was she talking to? About me? I stepped back, the floor creaking under me. The whispering stopped. She came out a minute later, phone clutched tight, her face blank. "Who were you talking to?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. "Work," she said, brushing past me. "At midnight." I pressed. She spun on me, eyes hard. "Drop it, Daniel." I didn't. I couldn't. That was the moment I decided I wasn't letting this slide. I'd watch her, figure out what she was hiding. I didn't know then how deep the lie went, how it had ripped my life apart. But I knew one thing. The woman I'd married wasn't who I thought she was. And I was damn sure going to find out why. A month into my marriage, I was done playing the fool. Elena's cold shoulder had turned into a wall, and I was tired of crashing into it. My body, my choice, line had gone from a sting to a slap, and I couldn't shake the feeling she was hiding something. I'd catch her staring at her phone, smirking at messages she'd tilted away from me, or slipping out for errands that lasted hours. I'd ask where she'd been, and she'd toss me a vague out before shutting down. I wasn't a jealous guy, not before her, but doubt had taken root, and it was growing fast. I decided to confront her. It was a Friday night, the house quiet except for the hum of the TV I wasn't watching. She sat on the couch, legs tucked under her, texting like her life depended on it. I took a breath, steadied myself. "Elena, we need to talk," I said, keeping my tone even. She didn't look up. "About what?" she muttered, thumbs still flying. "About us. You're distant. You won't touch me. What's going on?" She finally met my eyes, and I saw something flicker, annoyance, maybe guilt. "Nothing's going on," she said, sharp. "I'm just not in the mood. You don't own me, Daniel." The words hit like a brick. I stood there, jaw tight, searching her face for a crack. "I'm not trying to own you," I shot back. "I'm trying to understand my wife." She rolled her eyes, grabbed her phone, and stormed out. The front door slammed. I didn't follow. Work was my escape, but even there, the unease followed me. My construction company was my pride. 10 years of sweat and late nights. Built from a single truck to a crew of 20. Mark ran projects for me, and he'd been acting strange lately. He'd swing by my office more than he needed to, leaning on the doorframe with that lazy grin of his. "How's married life, big shot?" he'd ask, too casual, too often. I'd shrug, say it was fine, but his questions kept drifting to Elena. "She happy? Keeping you on your toes?" He'd laugh, but his eyes lingered on my reaction. I started wondering why he cared so much. Then there was the day he asked about money. We were in the break room, grabbing coffee. "Business still raking it in?" he said, stirring sugar into his cup. "Yeah, steady," I replied, watching him. He nodded, then added, You ever think about cashing out? You've got enough to coast. I frowned. Why would I? This is my life. He shrugged, smirked. Just saying, Elena might like a cushier setup. It was an odd comment, one that stuck with me. I brushed it off as Mark being Mark. Nosy, a little jealous maybe. He'd always been the kid who wanted what I had, ever since we were boys fighting over toys. I didn't see the warning signs. That night, Elena left her phone on the kitchen counter. She was in the shower, and the screen lit up with a text. I shouldn't have looked, I knew it, but curiosity won. I glanced over. The message was from M. Just 2 words. All good. My pulse kicked up. M could be anyone. Michelle from her old job. Her cousin Maria. But my gut screamed Mark. I didn't touch the phone, didn't scroll. I just stood there, staring, until she came out wrapped in a towel. She snatched it up, eyes narrowing. What are you doing? She snapped. Nothing. I lied. Just saw it buzz. She didn't buy it, but she didn't push. I went to bed with a knot in my chest. The next day, I checked her phone records. I'd never done anything like that before. Felt like a creep, but I had to know. I logged into our shared account online, scrolled through the numbers. There it was, dozens of calls to Mark's cell, some lasting an hour, most at night when I was asleep or out. My hands shook as I printed the list. I didn't confront her yet. I needed proof, something solid. I started watching her closer, where she went, who she talked to. She didn't notice or didn't care. It all came to a head a week later. She said she was meeting a friend for drinks, left the house in a hurry. I waited 10 minutes, then followed. I drove slow, kept my distance, tailing her car through town. She didn't go to a bar. She pulled into a park on the edge of the city, a quiet spot with no lights. I parked a block away, watched her get out. Then I saw him, Mark, stepping from his truck, hands in his pockets. My breath caught. She walked up, and before I could process it, they were kissing, deep, desperate, like they'd done it 100 times. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. My wife. My brother. Together. I didn't scream. I didn't charge out. I sat there, numb, as the truth sank in. This wasn't a fling. This was a knife in my back, twisted slow. I drove home. The image burned into my brain. Her hands on him, his smirk as he pulled her close. I didn't know what they were planning, but I knew one thing. I wasn't clueless anymore. And they were going to regret underestimating me. Seeing Elena and Mark together in that park broke something in me. Not my heart, but my patience. I'd spent a month swallowing doubts, making excuses, but that kiss was a spotlight on the truth. They weren't just cheating, they were playing me. I drove home that night with my hands steady on the wheel, my mind racing. I didn't cry or yell. I got focused. If they thought I'd roll over, they didn't know me at all. The next morning, I started digging. Elena was still asleep when I slipped out to my office. I had the phone records already, hours of calls between her and Mark, some while I'd been in the next room. I pulled bank statements next. My account showed withdrawals I hadn't made, small at first, then bigger, linked to her debit card. She'd been siphoning cash, covering tracks with vague receipts. I found texts too, synced to our cloud backup from months back. One from Mark to her, dated before the wedding. He's loaded. Stick it out. Another from her. I'll get what I can. My stomach turned. This wasn't love gone wrong. This was a con. I called my lawyer, Greg, that afternoon. He'd drawn up the prenup I'd insisted on. Elena had signed it reluctantly, joking I didn't trust her. Turns out I'd been right. I want an annulment, I told Greg, laying out the affair and the money trail. She married me under false pretenses. It's fraud. He didn't flinch. We've got a case, he said. Give me everything. Texts, photos, proof. I spent the next 2 days gathering it. I snapped a picture of Elena's phone screen when she left it unlocked. Mark's name glowing with a heart emoji. I hired a guy to tail them. Got shots of them meeting again. Every piece locked into place like a puzzle I wished I'd never solved. Elena figured out something was up when I stopped talking. I didn't confront her. Why tip my hand? She'd catch me staring, ask, "What's your problem?" I'd shrug, say nothing. She got jumpy, started packing bags for a weekend away. I let her think she had time. The day I filed, Greg served her the papers at the house. I wasn't there. I didn't need to see her fake tears. She called me, screaming, "You can't do this." I hung up. She countersued for alimony the next day, claiming I'd forced her into marriage and she deserved half my company. Bold move for a liar. Work was a minefield now. Mark showed up Monday, acting like nothing had changed. He strolled into my office, tossing a clipboard on my desk. "Got those site updates for you," he said, grinning. I looked at him, my little brother, the kid I'd bailed out of trouble a dozen times, and saw a stranger. "You're fired," I said, flat. His grin vanished. "What? You heard me. Get out." He stammered. "Dan, come on. What's this about?" I stood, leaned in close. "I saw you with her. Pack your stuff. You're done." His face went pale, then red. "It's not what you think," he started. I cut him off. "Save it for someone who cares." He grabbed his things and left, cursing under his breath. The real fallout came at Mom's place that weekend. She'd invited me for dinner, said it was family time. I should have known better. I walked in, and there they were, Elena and Mark, sitting at the table like I'd interrupted their meal. Mom rushed over, hands clasped. "Daniel, we need to fix this," she said, voice trembling. "They told me everything. It was a mistake, just fun that got out of hand." I stared at her, then at them. Elena wouldn't meet my eyes. Mark smirked, like he thought he'd won. "Fun," I said, slow. "Stealing from me, screwing my wife, that's your idea of fun?" Mom flinched. "He's your brother," she pleaded. "Forgive him." I laughed, a hard, bitter sound. "He's not my brother. He's a leech." And her. I jabbed a finger at Elena. "She's a gold digger who never loved me." Elena shot up. "That's not true." Mark grabbed her arm, pulled her back. "Dan, let's talk this out," he said, all fake calm. I stepped forward, towering over him. "You don't get to talk. You don't get anything from me, not my money, not my trust, not my name." I turned to Mom. "You're picking him over me? Fine. You're out too." She gasped, but I didn't stop. I walked out, their voices fading behind me. The court date came fast. Elena's lawyer spun a story, poor girl trapped by a controlling husband. Greg dismantled it. He showed the judge the texts, the photos, the prenup she'd signed. This marriage was a sham, he said. She targeted him for his wealth. The judge agreed. Annulment granted, no alimony, no payout. Elena glared at me as she stormed out, Mark trailing her like a kicked dog. I didn't feel triumph, not yet. I felt empty, but free. That night, I sat alone in my house, our house, now mine again. The silence was loud, but it was mine. They'd lost. I'd won. But it wasn't over. I knew Elena, she'd try something. And Mark? He'd follow her lead. I wasn't done with him yet. Winning in court felt good, but it wasn't enough. Elena and Mark had ripped my life open, and I wasn't about to let them slink away with a shrug. They'd underestimated me once, thought I'd fold, lick my wounds, and let them move on. I'd spent years building my company, my name, my trust. They didn't get to trash it and walk free. I'd make sure they felt the fallout, every jagged piece of it. Elena struck first. A day after the annulment, my phone buzzed with notifications, her social media posts, public for the world to see. "Trapped in a loveless marriage," she wrote. "He controlled me, took everything." She painted herself as the victim, tears in her profile pic. Hashtag screaming injustice. Comments piled up. Strangers calling me a monster, old friends asking what happened. I could have ignored it, let it fade. But then I saw Mark's reply. "He's always been a selfish prick. You deserved better." That lit the fuse. They wanted a war? I give them one. I had ammunition, those texts from before the wedding, the ones where they mocked me. "He's loaded." "Stick it out," Mark had said. The gullible cash cow, Elena had called me. I logged into my own account, posted the screenshots with a single line. "Truth hurts." No rant, no drama, just the evidence, cold and clear. The tide turned fast. Her followers backtracked, his buddies went quiet. I didn't stop there. I emailed a few key people, clients, mutual contacts, attached the same proof, kept it professional. "Just setting the record straight," I wrote. Word spread. Elena's victim act crumbled. Mark's charm didn't hold up. He tried hitting me where it hurt, my business. I got a call from a site foreman, Pete, saying Mark had shown up at a job, talking trash to the crew. "Said you fired him for no reason," Pete told me. "Tried to poach a few guys for a new gig." I clenched my jaw. Thanked Pete for the heads up. I trained my team well. Loyalty ran deep. No one took Mark's bait. but I wasn't leaving it to chance. Sarah, my office manager, stepped up. She'd been with me 5 years, sharp as a blade, and she'd never liked Mark. "Let me handle it," she said. She tipped off our suppliers, let slip what he'd done. By week's end, no one in town would touch him for work. He was radioactive. The family mess came next. Mom pulled her stunt a week after the court ruling. I got a text, "Dinner at my place, 6 p.m. We need to talk." I almost said no, but curiosity dragged me there. I walked in, and it was an ambush, Elena and Mark at the table, Mom hovering like a nervous referee. "Daniel, sit," she said, voice soft. "We can fix this." I stayed standing. "Fix what?" "Them screwing me over." Elena piped up, "You're overreacting. It wasn't personal." Mark nodded, all puppy eyes. "We messed up, Dan. Let's move past it." I looked at Mom, waiting for her to back me. She didn't. "They're sorry," she said. "He's your brother." I lost it. Quietly, the way rage cuts deepest. Sorry doesn't undo a year of lies. "He's not my brother. He's a thief." "And her?" I pointed at Elena. "She's a user who played us all." Mom teared up. "You're tearing this family apart." I stepped closer, voice low. "They did that. You're just picking their side." Mark stood. "Come on, man." I cut him off. "Don't. You're nothing to me now." I turned to Mom. "Call me when you figure out who your son really is." I left, their protests echoing behind me. That was the last time I stepped foot in her house. Back home, I took stock. My company was solid, clients stuck by me, profits held steady. Sarah kept things running, even brought me coffee one morning with a quiet, "You're doing good, boss." I nodded, grateful for her. But the fight wasn't over. Elena's posts had slowed, Mark's job hunt was dead, but I knew them. They'd regroup, try something desperate. I kept my guard up, checked my accounts daily, locked down my life tighter than ever. Then it came. Late one night, my phone pinged. A text from Elena. No name, just her number. "You'll regret this," it read. No context, no threat, just those 3 words glowing in the dark. I stared at it, pulse steady. Regret? I'd felt plenty, trusting her, hiring Mark, believing Mom's excuses. But this? Making them pay? That wasn't regret. That was justice. I didn't reply. I forwarded it to Greg, told him to keep it on file. Whatever she was planning, I'd be ready. I leaned back, the house silent around me. I'd lost a wife, a brother, a mother, not the ones I'd thought they were, but shadows wearing their faces. It hurt, sure, but it also cleared the board. I was alone, but I was in control. And control was something they'd never take from me again. Elena's text, "You'll regret this," hung over me like a shadow, but I wasn't scared. I'd seen her worst, felt Mark's knife in my back, and I was still standing. Whatever she had left, I'd face it head on. I'd spent too long being the mark in their game. Now, I was the one calling the shots. I forwarded the message to Greg, told him to watch for trouble. "She's desperate," he said. "Desperate people get sloppy." I nodded. Sloppy or not, I wasn't letting her catch me off guard again. It didn't take long. A week later, Greg called. "She's filed a motion, claims you coerced her into the prenup, says she's got proof." I laughed, dry and short. "Proof of what?" "Her lies." He faxed me the filing. Attached were photos, me and her, edited to look like I was yelling, grabbing her arm. Fake as hell, but convincing if you didn't know better. She'd paired them with an affidavit swearing I'd threatened her into signing. My blood boiled, but I stayed calm. "Can we fight this?" I asked. Greg didn't hesitate. "Oh, we'll bury it." The hearing was set fast, Elena pushing for a quick win, probably hoping I'd settle. I walked into the courthouse, Greg at my side, and saw her across the room. She wore a demure dress, eyes red like she'd been crying. Mark wasn't there. Guess he'd bailed on her too. Her lawyer strutted up, all smug, laying out the doctored pics and her sob story. "Mr. Carter intimidated my client," he said. "She feared for her safety." The judge, a no-nonsense woman with sharp eyes, flipped through the evidence, unimpressed. Greg went to work. He pulled metadata from the photos, timestamps showing they'd been altered post-annulment. He showed the original texts, her calling me the cash cow, proving her motive. "This isn't coercion," he told the judge. "This is revenge from a woman who lost her scam." I took the stand, kept it simple. She married me for money. When I caught her with my brother, she turned on me. Those pictures? Lies. The judge didn't blink. She ruled in 10 minutes, motion denied, case closed. Elena's face twisted as she stormed out, her lawyer muttering apologies. I didn't smile. I just walked away, free for good. Mark showed up that night. I was on my porch, sipping a beer, when his truck rolled in. He climbed out, hands up like he was surrendering. Dan, hear me out, he said, voice shaky. I set the bottle down, stood. You've got 30 seconds. He stumbled over his words, lost his job prospects. Elena dumped him. Mom wouldn't stop crying. I screwed up, he said. I'm sorry. You're my brother. I stepped closer, looked him dead in the eye. You stopped being my brother the day you chose her over me. You don't get a second chance to stab me in the back. He flinched, tried to argue. Get off my property, I said. Final. He left, tail between his legs. I didn't watch him go. Mom's letter came the next day. Handwritten, 2 pages of guilt trips. You're breaking my heart, Daniel. He's your blood. We're family. I read it once, saw her siding with him again, blaming me for the mess they made. I lit a match, held it to the corner, watched it burn in the sink. Family doesn't betray you, then demand forgiveness like it's their right. I was done carrying their weight. Work kept me steady. Sarah stepped up big, ran the office like a machine, kept the crew tight. One morning, she brought me coffee, lingered by my desk. You okay? She asked. No pity, just real. I nodded. Getting there. She smiled, small but warm. Good. You deserve it. I looked at her, steady, smart, someone who'd stuck by me when the rest fell apart. Maybe it was too soon. Maybe it was nothing, but I asked her to grab a drink after work. She said yes. It wasn't a fix, but it was a start. The last piece fell into place a week later. I drove out to the edge of town, a spot overlooking the city where I used to go to think. I stood there, hands in my pockets, taking it in. I'd lost a lot. Elena's fake love, Mark's loyalty, Mom's blind faith. It had hurt, carved me hollow for a while. But I'd fought back, stripped them of their power over me. My company was mine, stronger than ever. My life was mine, no strings left to pull. I thought about Elena's text, her last jab, her empty threat. Regret? I didn't feel it. I trusted too easy, sure, but that was on me. I learned, sharpened up, cut the dead weight. They'd gambled on me breaking. I'd bet on myself and won. The sun dipped low, and I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. I wasn't the man I'd been a year ago, soft, hopeful, blind. I was harder now, clearer. And for the first time in months, I felt solid. I turned back to my truck, ready for whatever came next. They'd lost. I triumphed. That was the end of it. If you felt Daniel's fight in your bones, hit that like button and let me know in the comments. Would you have forgiven Mark or cut him off too? Subscribe now and ring the bell so you don't miss the next story of betrayal, revenge, and redemption. What's your take? Drop it below and let's talk. See you in the next story. My parents announced at their wedding anniversary dinner, we are going to Hawaii next week with the entire family for another party. Everybody was happy. Then I asked them, what time is the departure? Dad replied, you don't know because you are not part of us. You can stay behind and take care of all the kids. So I dropped the bomb and their faces turned pale immediately. Hello. Thank you for your continuous support. This means a lot to us. If you enjoy the stories we share, kindly subscribe to this channel. It will be great if you can leave a comment on which city you are watching from. We might just give you a shout out in our next story. Today's special shout out goes to Alan from Melbourne, Australia. We are glad you enjoy our stories. Now let's dive into the details of today's story. I stood in the kitchen, apron smeared with grease, flipping burgers on the grill while the house buzzed around me. My parents' 40th anniversary party was in full swing, 40 years of Ed and Carol, celebrated with a backyard packed full of family. My hands moved fast, keeping the food coming, while my siblings, Mark, Lisa, and Jen lounged at the picnic table, laughing with their spouses and letting their kids run wild. I'd been at it since morning, setting up chairs, stringing lights, chasing after my nephews who thought the cake was a punching bag. At 35, I was the eldest, the one who made things work. Always had been. The noise hit a peak when Dad clinked his beer bottle with a fork, standing up like some king about to decree something. Mom leaned against him, her grin wide, and the crowd hushed. We've got an announcement, he said, voice gravelly from years of barking orders. Next week, we're taking the whole family to Hawaii. Another party, but with sand and sun. Cheers erupted. Mark hooped, Lisa clapped, and the kids shrieked about surfing. I felt a jolt of excitement too. Hawaii sounded like a dream, a break from the grind. I flipped the last burger, wiped my hands, and stepped closer. "What time's the departure?" I asked, casual, figuring I'd need to shuffle some work shifts. Dad turned, his gray eyes narrowing like I'd asked something stupid. "You don't need to know," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You're not part of us. Stay here and watch the kids." Mom snorted, a sharp little laugh, and waved her hand like it was nothing. My stomach dropped. The table went quiet for a beat, then Mark muttered something about flights, and the chatter picked back up. No one looked at me. No one cared. I stood there, spatula still in hand, heat creeping up my neck. After all I'd done, years of fixing their messes, working construction to pay their bills when Dad got laid off, babysitting so my siblings could live their lives, they didn't even see me as family. I tossed the spatula onto the grill, grabbed my jacket from the porch, and walked out. Lisa called after me, "Felix, you okay?" But I didn't stop. The screen door slammed behind me, and I was gone, boots crunching gravel to my truck. I drove to my apartment, a cramped one-bedroom littered with reminders of them, tools from helping Dad rebuild the garage, a toy car one of Jin's boys left behind. I sank onto the couch, staring at the wall. 35 years old, and I'd given up everything: college, travel, a life for them. And I got that in return. A nobody. A babysitter. The anger boiled up, hot and fast, but underneath it was something else: tiredness, bone deep. I couldn't do it anymore. I thought of Hawaii, the beaches I'd never see, and then of a place I'd always wanted to go, a coastal city a few hours away, all docks and waves and freedom. I'd driven through once, years back, and it stuck with me. No one needed me there. No one knew me. That was the point. I didn't sleep. I pulled a duffel bag from the closet and started packing: jeans, a few shirts, my old work boots. No plan, just motion. I grabbed my savings, a thin stack of cash from overtime, and checked the bus schedule on my phone. There was one leaving at 5 a.m., before the sun even thought about rising. I hesitated, thumb hovering over Sophie's number. She was 16, the youngest, the only one who ever seemed to get me, but I didn't call. She tried to talk me out of it, and I couldn't afford that. Not now. The clock ticked past 3 a.m. I slung the bag over my shoulder, locked the door, and walked to the station. The air was cool, the streets empty, and my chest felt tight, like I was betraying something. But I kept moving. The bus pulled up, a hulking gray thing, and I handed over my ticket. The driver didn't ask questions. I took a seat near the back, by the window, and watched my town shrink away as we rolled out. Gas station, hardware store, the house I'd grown up in, all fading into the dark. I leaned my head against the glass, jaw clenched. They'd figure out I was gone eventually, when they needed someone to wipe noses or pack lunches. Dad's words echoed, "You're not part of us." Fine. If I wasn't part of them, I'd be part of something else, something mine. The bus rumbled on, carrying me toward a city I barely knew. And for the first time in years, I felt awake. Scared, yeah, but awake. I didn't look back. The bus jolted to a stop just as the sun peaked over the horizon, and I stepped off into the coastal city. My boots hit the pavement, duffel bag slung over my shoulder, and I stood there, squinting at the sprawl of it. Docks stretching out to the water, cranes looming like giants, horns blaring from boats I couldn't see. It was loud, alive, nothing like the quiet trap I'd left behind. I had no idea where to start, but that was the point. No one here knew me as the guy who fixed everything. I was just Felix, and I'd figure it out. I found a room to rent that first day, a shoebox above a bar that shook with bass every night. The landlord, a guy with a beard like steel wool, didn't care about references, just took my cash and handed me a key. It wasn't much: a mattress, a sink, a window with a view of rusted fire escapes. But it was mine. I dropped my bag, sat on the bed, and let the weight of what I'd done sink in. I'd walked away. No goodbye, no note. They'd be waking up soon, probably still clueless, and I wondered how long it'd take them to notice. Next morning, I hit the streets looking for work. My savings wouldn't last, and I wasn't about to crawl back home. I landed a gig at a cafe near the docks, some hole-in-the-wall joint packed with fishermen and delivery guys. The manager tossed me an apron and told me to keep up. I'd never poured coffee for a living, and my first shift was a mess. Spilled trays, wrong orders, curses from the counter. But I gritted through it. No one yelled at me for forgetting diapers or missing a school pickup. It was hard, but it was clean. My mess, not theirs. That's where I met Sheila. She worked the register, all sharp edges and quick jabs, with a voice that cut through the noise. "You're slow, new guy," she said, smirking as I fumbled a latte. I shot back, "Least I don't scare the customers." And she laughed. A real one, not the fake kind Mom used to brush me off. Sheila was different, didn't tiptoe around me or expect me to play hero. She'd clock out and linger, tossing me tips about the city, like which streets to avoid after dark. I didn't say much, just listened, but it felt good having someone talk to me like I mattered. Days blurred into a week. I'd work, crash, then wander the city when I couldn't sleep. The docks drew me most, rough and real, with waves slamming the piers. One afternoon, I passed a pawn shop, its windows stuffed with junk. A beat-up camera caught my eye, a clunky thing I could afford. I'd messed with one in high school, back when I thought I'd be something more than a family errand boy. I bought it on impulse, figuring why not. That night, I took it to the water, snapped a shot of the pier cutting into the sea. It came out blurry, but I kept it anyway. Felt like a piece of me waking up. Back home, they still hadn't called. I pictured them, Dad barking about luggage, Mom fussing over sunscreen, Mark and Lisa arguing about who'd drive to the airport. Sophie might have noticed I wasn't there. She was sharper than the rest. But no one reached out, and I told myself I didn't care. I was free, building something, even if it was shaky. Then, late one night, my phone buzzed. Sophie's name lit up the screen. I hesitated, thumb hovering, then answered. "Felix, where are you?" Her voice was small, worried. "Mom's freaking out about the trip, and you're just gone." I leaned against the sink, staring at the cracked tile. "I had to leave, sophomore. I couldn't stay." She went quiet, then said, "They're mad, but I miss you. Come back, please." My chest tightened. She was the only one who'd ever asked me how I was, the only one I hated letting down. "I can't," I said, softer than I meant. "Not now." She sighed, and the line went dead. I set the phone down, hands clenched. Guilt gnawed at me, but I shook it off. I'd made my choice. The next day, I took the camera out again, shot the docks at dawn, boats unloading, workers shouting. The photos weren't perfect, but they were mine. Sheila caught me fiddling with it at work, raised an eyebrow. "Didn't peg you for artsy," she said. "Didn't peg you for nosy," I fired back. She grinned, and I felt a crack in the wall I'd built. Maybe I could do this, live here, be someone new. The city was rough, loud, unforgiving, but it didn't demand my soul. Not yet. I lay awake that night, the bar's music thumping below, and thought about Hawaii. They'd be leaving soon, or trying to. I wondered if they'd even miss me when the kids needed wrangling. Probably not. But I had this, the camera, the job, a start. It wasn't much, but it was enough to keep going. I'd been in the city 2 weeks when it happened. My routine was settling, wake up, stumble to the cafe, sling coffee, dodge Sheila's jabs. I'd started to like the grind, the way it kept my head busy. The camera was my escape after shifts, capturing the city's edges, the cranes at dusk, the foam on the waves. I wasn't good yet, but I was getting there. Home felt like a ghost, fading with every day they didn't call. I figured they were too wrapped up in Hawaii to care. Then, the night before their big trip, my phone rang. I was in my room, sprawled on the mattress, scrolling through shots I'd taken that day. The number flashed, Dad. My gut twisted. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something made me pick up. "Felix, where the hell are you?" His voice was all gravel and edge, like I'd skipped a chore, not left my life. "The kids need watching tomorrow, and you're AWOL. What's this about?" I sat up, gripping the phone tighter. 2 weeks, and this was why he called, not to check on me, but to demand I play babysitter again. I took a breath, felt the anger I'd buried clawing up. "I'm not there," I said, slow and hard. I left. "You don't get to tell me what to do anymore." He sputtered. "What's that supposed to mean?" "We're leaving for Hawaii, and you're pulling this." That's when Mom jumped in. I heard her snatch the phone, her tone sharp as a blade. Felix, you're being selfish. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us. Everything they'd done? I almost laughed. Years of me propping them up, fixing the roof, bailing Mark out of debt, watching their grandkids, and she had the nerve to flip it. I stood, pacing the tiny room, words I'd held back for decades spilling out. Repay you? I've been your doormat since I was 18. Skipped college to pay your bills, worked my hands raw so you could sit pretty. And you tell me I'm not part of you? I'm done. Handle the kids yourselves. Mom gasped, then snapped, ungrateful. That's what you are. You'll regret this. Dad growled something in the background, but I didn't wait. I hung up, slammed the phone on the sink, and stood there, chest heaving. My hands shook, but I felt lighter, like I'd finally cut a rope that had been choking me. I didn't sleep much after that. I kept picturing them, Dad cursing, Mom rallying my siblings to guilt me back. By morning, Sophie texted, "Trip's a mess. No one knows what to do with the kids. They're fighting bad." I stared at it, imagining the chaos. Mark yelling at Lisa, Jen whining about canceled plans, Dad refusing to budge. They'd built their world on me being there, and now it was crumbling. Good. Let it. I didn't reply. Work was a blur that day. I poured coffee, burned my hand on the steamer, barely heard the orders. Sheila noticed, elbowed me as she rang up a guy in a fish-stained jacket. "You look like you punched someone. What's up?" I shrugged, muttered, "Family crap," and she didn't push. But after our shift, she cornered me by the lockers. "There's a photography class tonight. Friend of mine runs it. You should come. Get your head straight." I didn't feel like company, but her grin was hard to argue with. "Fine," I said, grabbing my camera. The class was in a warehouse, a dozen people with tripods and fancy lenses. I felt out of place with my pawn shop junker, but the guy leading it, a wiry dude named Paul, didn't care. He talked about framing shots, seeing stories in the mundane. We went out after, shot the docks under streetlights. I got a decent one, 2 workers unloading crates, shadows stretching long. Paul nodded at it, said, "You've got an eye. Keep going." It wasn't much, but it stuck with me. I'd never been good at anything that wasn't for them. That night, I lay awake, the bar downstairs thumping as usual. Sophie texted again. They canceled Hawaii. Dad won't pay for sitters, and no one's stepping up. I smirked, picturing their faces, Mom's pout, Dad's red-necked fury. They'd assumed I'd cave like always. But I was here, building something. The camera sat on my pillow, a weight I liked. I thought about Sheila, the way she didn't treat me like a ghost, and Paul's words about seeing stories. Maybe I could be more than their grunt. I got up, scrolled through my photos, peer, workers, a goal mid-flight. They weren't perfect, but they were mine. I'd snapped them without anyone telling me where to stand or what to fix. The phone buzzed again. "Sophie, I wish you'd call. I wanted to for her, but not yet. She'd understand someday." I set the phone down, picked up the camera instead. Tomorrow, I'd shoot the waves at dawn. They'd crash whether my family figured themselves out or not. And I'd be there, not holding anyone's mess but my own. I'd been in the city 3 months when Dad showed up. By then, I'd carved out a rhythm, cafe shifts, late nights with the camera, a life that didn't revolve around anyone else's demands. The room above the bar still shook with noise, but I'd gotten used to it, even liked how it drowned out my thoughts. Work was steadier now. I could whip up a latte without cursing under my breath. Sheila had become a fixture, always around with her quick jabs and ideas, like the photography class that had turned into a weekly thing. I'd started a portfolio, shots of the docks and the people who worked them, raw stuff Paul said could go somewhere. I was beginning to believe him. That day, I was behind the counter, wiping down the espresso machine, when the door swung open and there he was. Dad. Gray hair thinner, shoulders hunched, same scowl I'd known since I was a kid. My hands froze mid-wipe. He scanned the place, locked eyes on me, and marched over like he owned it. Customers glanced up, then away. Sheila raised an eyebrow from the register but didn't say a word. "Felix," he said, voice low and rough, "we need to talk." My jaw tightened. I hadn't heard from him since the call, since Hawaii fell apart. Now here he was, uninvited, in my space. I nodded to the back, led him past the lockers to a corner where the hum of the fridge covered us. "What do you want?" I asked, crossing my arms. He shifted, uncomfortable, like he wasn't used to me standing tall. You took off, he said. Left us in a mess. Hawaii didn't happen, couldn't, without you. Family's been scrambling ever since. I stared at him, waiting. He rubbed his neck, muttered, I didn't think you'd stay gone. Look, I'm sorry it came out like that at the party. Come back. We need you. His eyes flicked up, expectant, like that was enough to erase it all. I laughed, short and bitter. You need me? That's why you're here? Not because you give a damn, but because your trip flopped and the kids are a hassle. He bristled, face reddening. Watch it, boy. We raised you, raised me. I cut in, voice rising. You leaned on me. I was 18 when I started paying your bills, 25 when I rebuilt your garage for free, 35 when you told me I wasn't family. I'm not your fix anymore. He opened his mouth, then shut it, fist clenching. For once, he didn't have a comeback. I took a breath, stepped back. Sit down, I said softer. Have a coffee. He hesitated, then sank into a chair by the window. I grabbed 2 cups, poured black, no cream, how he liked it, and sat across from him. He stared at the mug, then at me. What's this? He grunted, nodding at the camera slung over my shoulder. I slid it onto the table, flipped through the screen, shots of the pier, a fisherman hauling nets. Something I'm doing, I said. For me. He squinted at them, silent, then pushed the camera back. Didn't know you were into that, he mumbled. You never asked, I shot back. We sat there, awkward, sipping in silence. I didn't know him this, but I wanted him to see it. See me, not the guy who'd always say yes. He finished his coffee, stood. Think about it, he said. Doors open. I shook my head. I'm staying. He nodded, slow, like he'd expected it, but didn't like it. Then he walked out, boots heavy on the floor, and I watched him go, a knot in my chest loosening. Sheila sidled up after, leaning on the counter. That your old man? She asked. Yeah, I said, scrubbing a mug harder than I needed to. He's a piece of work. She smirked. Looked like you held your own. Oh, class tonight. Paul's got a friend with a gallery. Bring your stuff. I grunted a yes, mind still spinning. Dad's visit shook me, but it didn't break me. I'd built something here, and he couldn't take it. That night, I went to class, showed Paul my portfolio. He flipped through it, tapped a shot of a wave crashing over the rocks. This one's got guts, he said. Gallery's doing an exhibit, small, local. You should enter. I froze. Me in a gallery? But Sheila grinned, punched my arm. Told you. Do it. I nodded, half-dazed. Later, I sat in my room, photos spread out on the bed. I picked a few. The wave, the fisherman, an old shot of the family from the anniversary, faded and creased. Roots and wings, I'd call it. Past and present, tangled but separate. Sophie texted as I packed them up. Dad's quiet since he got back. Said you're different. I typed back, I am. She didn't reply, but I didn't need her to. Dad's shadow had come and gone, and I was still standing. The exhibit was a shot, my shot. I wasn't going back, not to who I'd been. I grabbed my camera, headed for the door. Tomorrow, I'd shoot the docks at sunrise. They'd keep moving, and so would I. The gallery night crept up fast, and I wasn't ready. 3 months ago, I'd been pouring coffee and dodging family guilt. Now I was pacing a warehouse turned art space, my photos pinned to the walls. It was a small gig, local folks, chip paint, folding chairs, but it felt huge. My portfolio was up there, the fishermen hauling nets, the waves smashing the rocks, and that old shot of the family from the anniversary, all edges in tension. Roots and Wings, I'd called it, a name that stuck in my head after Dad's visit. Sheila had pushed me to do it, Paul had nodded it through, and here I was, palms sweaty, waiting for people to show. The place filled up quick, dock workers in clean shirts, artsy types with glasses, a few regulars from the cafe. Sheila rolled in, grinning, dragging a couple friends from class. Look at you, big shot, she said, punching my arm. I smirked, muttered, shut up, but I was glad she was there. Paul worked the room, shaking hands, pointing folks to my stuff. I hung back by the wall, watching strangers squint at my shots. A guy in a flannel stopped at the wave photo, nodded slow. Caught the power in that, he said, then moved on. I didn't know what to say, so I didn't. But it hit me, I'd made something they saw. The night blurred by. People milled around. sipping cheap wine, talking louder as the hours ticked on. A woman with a clipboard, some gallery friend of Paul's, bought the fisherman shot right off the wall. $50, first money I'd ever made off a picture. I stuffed the cash in my pocket, half expecting it to vanish. Sheila toasted me with her plastic cup, said, "Told you you had it." I shrugged, but inside, I was buzzing. This was mine, not a favor, not a fix, just me. No one from home was there to see it, and that stung a little, but it didn't ruin it. Later, I stepped outside for air, the noise fading behind me. The city hummed, horns, waves, a drunk yelling down the block. I leaned against the wall, thinking about how far I'd come. That bus ride out of town, the call with Dad, the coffee I'd poured him, they felt like years ago, not months. My phone buzzed in my pocket. "Sophie." I opened the text. "Heard you're doing good. Dad and Mom are trying Hawaii again, taking the kids this time. Weird without you." I stared at it, picturing them. Dad grumbling about luggage, Mom hurting the grandkids, Mark and Lisa probably still mad about the first flop. They'd figured it out, or close enough. I typed back, "Glad they're going. I'm good here." She sent a thumbs up, and that was it. I didn't feel the pull to go back anymore. Sophie's words used to twist me up, make me second-guess leaving. Not now. They'd moved on, and so had I. The gallery doors swung open, Sheila poking her head out. "You hiding? Come on, Paul's wrapping up." I followed her in, caught the tail end of him thanking everyone. He nodded at me, said, "Felix's work's got something real, keep an eye on him." A few clapped, and I ducked my head, not used to the attention. It was over quick, and I helped stack chairs, the buzz still humming under my skin. When the place emptied, I grabbed my camera and headed out. It was late, but I wasn't tired. I walked to the shore, the city thinning behind me, till it was just me and the water. Dawn was close, the sky graying, the waves restless. I set up my tripod, framed a shot, a single wave cresting, about to break. I clicked the shutter, held my breath as it crashed. The screen lit up with it, sharp, alive, mine. I sat there on the rocks, watching the light spread, and felt something settle. Not peace, exactly, but close. I thought about the family shot on the gallery wall, Dad's scowl, Mom's forced smile, me in the back, half cut off. It'd always be part of me, that life, those years I gave them. But this, the camera, the city, the wave, was what I'd chosen. They were in Hawaii by now, or on their way, and I didn't resent it. They built something without me, and I built this. Ties were still there, frayed and thin, but I didn't need to mend them. Not yet. The sun broke over the horizon, and I packed up, boots crunching on the gravel. I'd head to the cafe later, sling coffee, maybe show Sheila the shot. Paul had mentioned another exhibit, and I was already thinking about what I'd shoot next. The city stretched out ahead, rough and loud, and I walked into it, camera slung over my shoulder. I wasn't the guy who left anymore, or the one who stayed too long. I was just Felix, and that was enough. If Felix's journey hit home for you, drop a like and let me know in the comments. What's the moment you broke free and chose yourself? Subscribe for more stories like this, and hit that bell so you don't miss the next one. Thanks for listening. See you in the next story. My mother convinced my girlfriend to marry my brother. She told her, "He is stronger and better for you." I was very broken and sad when I returned to see what had happened. But I moved out of the city to build my life, and when I returned, everything was different. Hello. Thank you for your continuous support. This means a lot to us. If you enjoy the stories we share, kindly subscribe to this channel. It will be great if you can leave a comment on which city you are watching from. We might just give you a shout out in our next story. Today's special shout out goes to Terry Lawson from South Africa. We are glad you enjoy our stories. Now let's dive into the details of today's story. My name's Alvin, and I guess you could say my story starts with the day everything I thought I had fell apart. Back then, I was just a guy in a small town, Harriston, the kind of place where everybody knows your business before you do. I was 23, working at the hardware store, stacking lumber and ringing up nails for folks who'd known me since I was in diapers. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills, and I had Lily. She was my world, dark hair that fell in waves, a laugh that made the air feel lighter. We'd been together 2 years, and I was saving up for a ring. Not a fancy one, just something to put on her finger and say, "You're mine, and I'm yours." That summer, I got a chance to make some extra cash. A buddy hooked me up with a 3-week gig hauling hay an hour away. It was hard work, sweat soaking my shirt, dust clogging my throat. But I pictured Lily's face every time I tossed a bale. I'd call her at night from a creaky payphone outside the bunkhouse, her voice soft and sweet through the static. "Miss you," she'd say, and I'd grin like an idiot, counting the days till I'd be back. I didn't know my own mom was counting down too, but for a different reason. When I rolled back into Harrison, my truck rattling down Main Street, I felt lighter than I had in weeks. I'd made enough to start a savings account, maybe even take Lily somewhere nice. I stopped by her place first, a little shotgun house with peeling paint, flowers she'd planted blooming out front. But when I knocked, her mom answered, lips tight like she'd bitten a lemon. "She's not here, Alvin," she said, barely looking at me. "You'd best talk to your family." My gut twisted. I drove home, dust kicking up behind me, and walked into chaos. My mom, Margaret, was in the kitchen, flour on her apron, barking orders at my brother James like she was a general. James, all 6'3" of him, lounged against the counter, smirking. And then I saw it, the ring on his hand, a cheap gold band that didn't match the one I'd been dreaming of buying. "Where's Lily?" I asked, voice rougher than I meant it to be. Mom turned, wiping her hands like she was brushing me off. "She's with James now, Alvin. They're engaged. It's done." The room spun. I looked at James, his grin widening like he'd won some prize, and I swear I could have punched through the wall. "What the hell are you talking about?" I said, stepping closer. "Calm down," Mom snapped. "Lily needed a man, not a boy chasing pipe dreams. James is strong, steady. He's got a future. You're just, you." Her words hit like a slap. I'd spent my life trying to make her proud, fixing the porch when it sagged, working overtime so she wouldn't worry about bills. And James? He'd coasted, leaning on his size and charm, never lifting a finger unless it got him something. Now he had Lily. I stormed out, tires squealing as I drove to Lily's again. She was there this time, sitting on the porch swing, eyes red. "Alvin," she started, but I cut her off. "Is it true?" She nodded, twisting her hands. "Your mom, she said you'd never be enough, that James could take care of me." I didn't know what to do. "You didn't know what to do?" I laughed, but it sounded hollow. "You could have waited 3 damn weeks. You could have called me." Tears spilled down her cheeks, and part of me wanted to hold her, tell her it'd be okay. But the other part, the part that saw James's smirk, heard Mom's voice, knew it was over. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I didn't say anything back. I just walked away, her sobs fading behind me. That night, I sat in my room, staring at the walls I'd grown up in. Pictures of us as kids, me and James fishing, Mom smiling at a picnic, felt like lies. I wasn't their family anymore. I was the spare, the one they threw out when something shinier came along. By morning, I'd made up my mind. I packed a duffel bag, clothes, a toothbrush, the $50 I had left from the hay job. Mom was in the living room when I came down, knitting like nothing had happened. "Were you going?" she asked, not even looking up. "Anywhere but here," I said. She didn't stop me. James wasn't around, probably off gloating. I got in my truck and drove, the town shrinking in my rearview mirror. I didn't know where I was headed, but I knew one thing. I'd never let them break me again. And that's how it started, the day I lost everything and decided I'd build something they couldn't touch. Leaving Harrison was like shedding a skin I didn't fit in anymore. My truck rattled down the highway, radio buzzing with static, and I didn't stop till the gas needle kissed empty. That landed me in Easton, a city big enough to swallow me whole, all concrete and noise compared to the quiet fields I'd left behind. I had $50, a duffel bag, and a fire in my chest that wouldn't quit. I wasn't sure what I was chasing, but I knew I couldn't go back. First few days, I slept in the truck, windows cracked, parked behind a diner where the cooks didn't care as long as I moved by dawn. I'd wake up stiff, neck aching, and wash my face in a gas station sink, splashing cold water till I felt human again. I needed a job fast. So I walked into every place with a help wanted sign, my boots scuffing sidewalks littered with gum wrappers and cigarette butts. Most folks took one look at my faded jeans and said, "We'll call you." They never did. Finally, I stumbled into a warehouse gig, loading crates onto trucks for $10 an hour. It was brutal. My arms burned after the first shift, sweat dripping into my eyes as I hauled boxes of car parts or whatever else they shipped. The foreman, a guy named Rick with a voice like gravel, barked orders nonstop. "Move it, new kid," he'd yell, and I'd grit my teeth, picturing James's smirk every time I wanted to quit. I wasn't strong like him, not yet, but I'd be damned if I let that stop me. Nights were the worst. I'd crash in a cheap motel room I rented by the week, walls thin enough to hear the guy next door coughing up a lung. I'd lie there, staring at water stains on the ceiling, thinking about Lily. Her face would sneak in, those soft eyes, that laugh, and I'd wonder if she was happy with James. Then I'd hear Mom's voice, "You're just you," and I'd roll over, punching the pillow till the thought shut up. I didn't have time to feel sorry for myself. One day, I saw a flyer taped to a pole outside the warehouse. Night classes, learn a trade, build a future. It was at the community college a few blocks over. I'd never been big on school, barely scraped through high school, but something about it stuck. Maybe it was the word future. I signed up for a basic computer course, figuring it couldn't hurt. First night, I sat in a room full of tired people like me, all hunched over clunky old PCs. The teacher, Mr. Hayes, was this wiry guy with glasses sliding down his nose. "You don't need to be smart," he said. "You just need to show up." I could do that. That's where I met Sarah. She was in the back row, tapping away at her keyboard like she'd been born with it in her hands. Short brown hair, freckles across her nose, and a way of smiling that didn't feel forced. We got paired up for some dumb assignment, making a spreadsheet, and I fumbled through it, cursing under my breath. "Relax," she said, leaning over to fix my mess. "It's not brain surgery." Her fingers flew across the keys, and I just watched, feeling like a kid who'd wandered into the wrong room. After class, we grabbed coffee at a diner across the street, black for me, cream and sugar for her. She told me she'd grown up in Easton, worked as a cashier but wanted more. "I'm not staying behind a register forever," she said, stirring her cup. "What about you?" I didn't know how to answer. "Just trying to figure it out," I mumbled, and she nodded like she got it. We started talking after class most nights about the course, then dumb stuff like movies or the best cheap eats in town. She had this way of making me forget the ache I carried around. Work got steadier. Rick stopped yelling so much, even clapped me on the shoulder once and said, "You're not half bad, kid." I saved enough to ditch the motel for a tiny apartment, peeling paint, a mattress on the floor, but mine. Sarah came over one night with a pizza, laughing at my empty place. "You need a chair or something," she teased, plopping down cross-legged on the carpet. We ate straight from the box, grease staining our fingers, and I felt something loosen in my chest. Not love, not yet, but a crack of light in the dark. Then came the break. A guy at the warehouse mentioned his cousin's startup needed help, some tech outfit building apps or gadgets, I wasn't sure. "They want grunts who'll work hard," he said. I showed up in my cleanest shirt, palms sweaty, and talked to a skinny guy in a hoodie named Tim. He asked what I could do, and I said, "Anything you teach me." Guess that was enough. He hired me as an assistant, running errands, hauling gear, whatever they needed. Pay was better, and I got to watch these brainy types code and argue over stuff I barely understood. I soaked it up, asking questions when they'd let me. By the end of that first year in Easton, I wasn't the same guy who'd left Harriston. My hands were calloused. My bank account had a few $100, and I had Sarah, well, not had her, but she was there, steady as a heartbeat. One night, walking her home from class, she slipped her hand in mine, casual like it was nothing. I froze, then squeezed back, my pulse thumping. "You're doing good, Alvin," she said, looking up at me. "Don't stop." I didn't plan to. I'd lost everything once, and I wasn't going to let that happen again. But as I walked back to my place, city lights buzzing overhead, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the start. Something bigger was coming. I could taste it. Easton stopped feeling like a maze after a while. It turned into home, piece by piece. I'd been there a few years by then, and life had a rhythm. Work, Sarah, and this quiet fire in me that kept pushing. That startup gig I'd stumbled into? It wasn't just errands anymore. Tim, the skinny guy in the hoodie who'd hired me, started trusting me with more, testing apps, running numbers, even sitting in on meetings where they tossed ideas around like ping pong balls. I didn't get half of it at first, but I listened, scribbled notes on napkins, and figured it out. Turns out, I was good at seeing the big picture, how the pieces fit, what people might want. Tim noticed. One day, he pulled me aside, coffee breath and all. "Alvin, you're wasted hauling boxes," he said. "We're scaling up, new office, investors, the works. I need someone to manage ops. You in?" I blinked, waiting for the punchline, but he was serious. Operations meant keeping the chaos in line, shipments, schedules, budgets. I'd never done it, but I'd watched Rick run the warehouse like a drill sergeant. I could learn. "Yeah," I said, heart thumping. "I'm in." That's how it started, me climbing step by sweaty step. The company grew fast. Some app we built hitting big with college kids, then offices, then overseas. I worked late, slept less, and loved it. Sarah stuck with me through it. We'd been dating a year when I asked her to move in. Nothing fancy, just my little apartment with a couch now instead of just a mattress. She said yes, hauling in a box of books and a coffee pot, grinning like we'd won something. A year after that, I proposed. No big scene, just us on the fire escape, city lights flickering below, and a ring I'd saved 6 months for. She cried, nodded, and that was that. We got married at City Hall, her in a white dress she'd found on sale, me in a suit that pinched at the shoulders. No crowd, no fuss, just a couple friends from work and her sister snapping pics. I liked it that way. Quiet. Ours. Soon after, she got pregnant, and 9 months later, we had Mia, tiny, loud, with Sarah's freckles already dotting her nose. 2 years after that came Ethan, all chubby cheeks and fists. I'd come home bone-tired, and they'd climb on me, giggling, and suddenly the day didn't feel so heavy. By then, I was CEO. Yeah, me, Alvin from Harrison, the kid who'd stacked lumber, running a company worth millions. Tim stepped back to tinker with code, and the board picked me to lead. I didn't flaunt it, kept my truck, wore the same boots, let Sarah handle the spotlight stuff like interviews or fancy dinners. She was good at it, charming suits with her quick laugh, while I stayed behind the scenes, making sure the machine ran smooth. We bought a house, not a mansion, just a brick place with a yard for the kids, but we didn't tell anyone who didn't need to know. I liked it secret, felt safer, but the past wasn't gone. It'd creep in late at night, when the house was still and Sarah's breathing was soft beside me. I'd see Lily's face, hear Mom's voice cutting me down, picture James flexing like he owned the world. I kept the box in the closet, old photos, a letter from Mom I'd never opened, a snapshot of me and Lily at the county fair, her head on my shoulder. I'd pull it out sometimes, stare at it, then shove it back. Sarah caught me once, asked what it was. Nothing. I lied, and she let it go, but her eyes said she knew. We were happy, me, Sarah, the kids, but I wasn't whole. Not yet. I'd built this life, brick by brick, and it was good, but there was a hole where Harrison used to be. I didn't miss them, not really, but I wondered, did they ever think about me? Did Lily regret it? Did Mom care she lost a son? I'd push it down, focus on Mia's drawings or Ethan's babbling, but it lingered. Then the call came. I was in the office, papers spread across my desk, when my phone buzzed. Unknown number, Harrison area code. I almost didn't pick up, but something made me. "Alvin," a voice said, gruff, familiar. "Uncle Pete, Dad's brother. Your dad's gone. Heart attack. Funeral Saturday." My throat locked up. Dad hadn't been perfect, quiet, let Mom run the show, but he'd never cut me like she did. I mumbled something about being there and hung up, staring at the wall. Sarah found me like that when she got home, kids trailing behind her. "What's wrong?" she asked, setting Ethan on the floor. I told her, voice flat. "You don't have to go," she said, hand on my arm. But I shook my head. "I do. Not for Mom, not for James or Lily, for Dad, maybe, or for me." I needed to see it through. That night, I couldn't sleep. I slipped out of bed, dug out that box again. The letter from Mom was still sealed, postmarked years back. I tore it open, hands shaking. "Alvin, come home. We miss you. James and Lily are struggling. Help us." No sorry, no nothing, just a demand, like always. I crumpled it, tossed it in the trash. They didn't get to need me now. Friday, I packed a bag, suit, tie, nothing flashy. Sarah hugged me tight at the door, Mia clinging to my leg. "Be careful," Sarah said, I searching mine. "I will," I promised. Driving out of Easton, kids waving from the porch, I felt the old ache stir. Harrison was calling me back, and I wasn't sure what I'd find. But I knew one thing. I wasn't that broke kid anymore. Whatever waited there, I'd face it standing tall. The drive back to Harrison felt like crossing a line I had drawn in the dirt years ago. My truck hummed along the highway, fields blurring past, and every mile tightened the knot in my gut. I hadn't been back since I peeled out at 23, tailpipe spitting dust, and now here I was, 35, with a life they didn't know about. The radio crackled some old country song about lost love, and I switched it off. Didn't need the reminder. I rolled into town late Friday, sky gray and heavy like it might rain. Harrison hadn't changed much. Same sagging porches, same gas station with the busted sign. I pulled into a motel on the edge of town, a squat brick place with flickering neon. The clerk barely glanced up as I paid cash for a room. Bed creaked, sheets smelled like bleach, but it'd do. I dropped my bag, stared at myself in the cracked mirror, lines around my eyes, hair a little thinner. I wasn't that kid anymore, but I still felt him rattling around inside me. Saturday morning, I put on the suit, dark, simple, nothing flashy, and drove to the church. It was the same one I'd gone to as a kid, white paint peeling, steeple leaning like it was tired. Cars lined the lot, folks in black milling around, voices low. I parked at the back, took a breath, and stepped out. Heads turned, old neighbors, cousins I hadn't seen in years, but no one said much. Yes, I was a ghost to them now. Inside, the pews were packed, air thick with flowers and murmurs. I slid into a seat near the back, next to some guy I vaguely remembered from high school. Then I saw them, Mom, James, Lily, up front, like royalty holding court. Mom's hair was grayer, pulled tight in a bun, her face sharp as ever. James sat broad-shouldered, suit straining at the seams, looking bored. And Lily, she was thinner, eyes dull, hands folded in her lap. Time hadn't been kind, but I didn't feel sorry. Not yet. A woman leaned over Mrs. Carter, who had taught me Sunday school, and whispered, "They stuck you back here, huh?" Typical Margaret. I shrugged, kept my mouth shut. I could feel Mom's eyes sweep the room, but she didn't spot me. James muttered something to Lily, and she nodded, blank as a doll. They thought I was nothing, some broke nobody who'd crawled back for crumbs. Let them. The service started, preacher droning about Dad's life, how he'd worked the farm, loved his family. I barely listened. Dad had been quiet, always in Mom's shadow, but he'd taught me to fish, fixed my bike when I crashed it. He never stood up for me, though, not once. I wondered if he'd tried at the end. Then Uncle Pete got up, clearing his throat, holding a paper. "Alvin," he said, voice carrying, "your dad wanted you to read this." Heads turned, whispers rippling. Mom's face twitched, James frowned, Lily's eyes flicked up. I stood, legs steady, and walked to the front. The aisle felt a mile long, every step echoing on the wood floor. Pete handed me the paper, clapped my shoulder, and I faced the crowd. Dad's handwriting stared back at me, shaky, slanted, real. "To my boy, Alvin," I started, voice low but clear. "I wasn't the father you deserved. I let things happen I shouldn't have. But I watched you from afar, heard about your life, your work. You made something out of nothing, and I'm proud. I'm sorry I didn't say it sooner." My throat tightened, but I kept going. "You're stronger than I ever was. Don't let anyone tell you different." The room was dead quiet. I glanced up. Mom's lips were a thin line. James shifted like he might bolt. Lily stared at her hands. I could have stopped there, let it hang, but something in me snapped loose. "I brought my family today," I said, looking to the back. "Sarah, kids, come on up." A rustle, then footsteps. Sarah walked down the aisle, Mia and Ethan trailing her. She wore a black dress, simple but sharp, hair pulled back, and the kids looked like little adults. Mia in a skirt, Ethan in a tie. I'd nodded myself. They reached me, Sarah's hand brushing mine, and I turned back to the crowd. You could have heard a pin drop. Mom's face went white, like she'd seen a ghost. James's jaw dropped, eyes darting between me and the kids. Lily blinked, slow, like she was waking up. The rest of the church buzzed, whispers, gasps, but I didn't care. I folded Dad's letter, tucked it in my pocket, and said, "That's all." Then I led my family back to our seats, Sarah's fingers laced with mine, Mia whispering, "Was that okay, Daddy?" I nodded, throat too tight to talk. The rest of the service blurred. Hymns, prayers, people filing past Dad's casket. I stayed put, watching Mom twist her handkerchief, James glare at the floor, Lily sneak glances my way. They hadn't said a word, but I could feel it, their world tilting, cracking. Good. When it ended, folks spilled outside, air damp with the rain that had finally started. I stood under the awning, Sarah beside me, kids playing with a pebble they'd found. I thought that'd be it. Just a look, a moment, then I'd go. But then I saw them coming. Mom, James, Lily, cutting through the crowd, faces I hadn't faced in 12 years. My pulse kicked up, and I squared my shoulders. Whatever they had to say, I was ready. The rain was coming down steady now, tapping on the church awning like it was keeping time. I stood there, Sarah close, the kids kicking at puddles a few feet away. The crowd thinned out, folks hurrying to their cars, but I didn't move. My eyes were locked on Mom, James, and Lily pushing through, their faces tight like they'd rehearsed this. 12 years since I'd left, and here they were, about to say something I wasn't sure I wanted to hear. My hands balled up in my pockets, but I kept my chin up. They didn't get to see me flinch. Mom reached me first, her black dress soaked at the hem, eyes sharp as ever. "Alvin," she said, voice clipped, like she was calling me in for supper. "You should have told us you were coming." No hello, no nothing. Just that old tone, like I'd inconvenienced her. James loomed behind, arms crossed, rain plastering his hair to his forehead. Lily hung back, clutching an umbrella, looking smaller than I remembered. "Told you," I said, keeping it even. "Didn't think you'd care." Her mouth twitched. "Of course we care. Your family." She glanced at Sarah and the kids, then back at me, like she was sizing up a puzzle she couldn't solve. "What's all this? The suit, the wife, the children." I let the question hang, rain drumming between us. Sarah stepped closer, her hand on my arm, steady like always. "This is my life," I said finally. "Built it myself. No thanks to you." James snorted, breaking his silence. "What's that supposed to mean? You show up after years, acting like some big shot, reading Dad's letter like you're better than us." His voice had that edge, the one he'd used to cut me down when we were kids. "Where you been, huh? Where you left me?" I shot back, staring him down. "Out in the cold, while you took everything I had." He flinched, just a flicker, but I saw it. Mom jumped in, waving a hand. "That's not fair, Alvin. We did what was best, for Lily, for the family. You were young, chasing dreams that wouldn't pan out." James stepped up. "Stepped up?" I laughed, sharp and bitter. "He stepped on me, Mom. You pushed him to it. Told Lily I'd never be enough. Handed her over like I was trash. Don't act like it was noble." Lily spoke then, voice shaky, stepping out from under her umbrella. "Alvin, I didn't mean to hurt you. Your mom, she made it sound like you'd be gone forever, like you didn't care." I was scared. Her eyes were wet, but I couldn't tell if it was rain or tears. "I thought about you every day." I looked at her, really looked. The girl I'd loved was still there, buried under years of regret, but it didn't soften me. "You could have called," I said. "Could have waited 3 weeks. You chose Lily. Live with it." She dropped her gaze, water dripping off her chin. James shifted, jaw tight. "So what? You're rich now? Big man with a fancy job? Come here to rub it in our faces?" "CEO," I said, flat. "Build a company from nothing. Didn't come to rub it in, just came for Dad. You're the ones who made it about me." Mom's eyes widened, just for a second, before she smoothed it over. "Well," she said, forcing a smile, "that's impressive. We always knew you had it in you, didn't we, James?" He grunted, not selling it. "Maybe you could help us out. Things haven't been easy. James lost his job, the farm's struggling. Family helps family." There it was, the ask. Same old Mom, turning a knife into a handshake. I saw red for a split second, memories flashing. Her voice in the kitchen, "You're just you?" James smirking as he slipped that ring on, Lily walking away. I took a breath, let it out slow. "You didn't help me," I said. "When I was sleeping in my truck, eating gas station sandwiches, where were you?" "Oh, right, writing letters begging after you'd already cut me loose." "That's not," Mom started, but I cut her off. "You made your choices. I made mine. We're done. I turned, nodding to Sarah. She called the kids, Mia and Ethan scampering over, oblivious to the weight of it all. Let's go, I said, and we started for the truck. Mom's voice chased me, shrill now. Alvin, wait. We're sorry, okay? We didn't know. I kept walking, rain soaking my suit, Sarah's hand in mine. James shouted something, cursing, probably, but it blurred into the storm. Lily didn't say another word, and I didn't look back to check. The truck door slammed shut behind us, Mia giggling about her wet socks, Ethan asking if we could get burgers. Sarah squeezed my knee, quiet, letting me breathe. As we pulled out, I caught a glimpse in the rear view, Mom standing there, arms limp, James kicking at the mud, Lily under her umbrella like a shadow. They looked small, lost, like the rain had washed away whatever power they'd had over me. I didn't feel good about it, not happy, not mean, just free. Like a weight I'd carried too long finally slipped off. Dad? Mia piped up from the back. Were those people mad at you? Nah, I said, forcing a smile. Just surprised, kiddo. It's been a while. She nodded, satisfied, and started chattering to Ethan. Sarah glanced at me, eyes soft. You okay? She asked. Yeah, I said, and for once, I meant it. The road stretched ahead, Harrison fading behind us, and I knew I'd never come back. They'd seen what I'd made, and that was enough. The rain followed us out of Harrison, streaking the windshield as I drove. The truck's wipers squeaked, Mia and Ethan chattered in the back, and Sarah sat quiet beside me, her hand resting on my leg. I kept my eyes on the road, lights blurring through the wet, but my mind was still at that church, Mom's pinched face, James's glare, Lily's umbrella drooping like a wilted flower. I didn't say much, just let the miles roll by, the hum of the engine filling the space where words didn't fit. We stopped at a diner an hour out, some hole in the wall with neon buzzing in the window. The kids were starving, and Ethan had been begging for burgers since we left. Inside, it smelled like grease and coffee, the kind of place where the waitress calls you hon, and the booths are patched with tape. Mia slid in next to me, swinging her legs, while Ethan climbed into Sarah's lap, smearing ketchup on his shirt 5 minutes in. You're a mess, buddy, I said, ruffling his hair, and he grinned, teeth full of fries. Watching them, laughing over dumb stuff like who'd finish first, I felt my chest loosen up. This was mine. Nobody could take it. Sarah caught my eye across the table, her smile soft. You're quiet, she said, wiping Ethan's hands with a napkin. Still thinking about it? Yeah, I admitted, poking at my fries. Not them, though, not really. Just how it's over. She nodded, like she got it, and didn't push. That's how she was. Knew when to let me stew. We finished up, paid the bill, and piled back into the truck. The rain had eased to a drizzle, sky bruising purple as night crept in. The kids dozed off halfway home, heads lolling against each other, and Sarah leaned her head on my shoulder. Proud of you, she murmured, half asleep. I didn't answer, just squeezed her hand, but it stuck with me. Back in Easton, pulling into our driveway felt like landing after a long fall. The house glowed warm, brick, simple ours. I carried Ethan in, his little arms limp around my neck, while Sarah scooped up Mia. We tucked them in, their rooms messy with toys and crayon scribbles, and I stood there a minute, watching them breathe. They didn't know what Harrison meant, didn't carry that weight. Good. I'd made damn sure of that. Downstairs, Sarah poured us coffee, and we sat on the couch, mugs steaming. The quiet settled in, thick but not heavy. You gonna tell me what happened? She asked, curling her legs under her. So I did everything. Dad's letter, the way it hit me, how Mom begged, James cursed, Lily just stood there. I told her about the rain, the walk away, how it didn't feel like winning, just letting go. Did you want to forgive them? She asked, sipping her coffee. I thought about it, staring at the steam curling up. No, I said finally. Not because I hate them. I don't, not anymore. Just, they don't get a piece of this. What we've got, it's ours. They lost their shot. She smiled, small but real, and set her mug down. Then that's that, she said, leaning into me. We sat like that a while, TV flickering some late-night show we didn't watch, and I felt the last knot in my gut unwind. I'd faced them, stood tall, and walked away. It was done. Next morning, I was up early. Habit, I guess. The kids were still out, house quiet except for the coffee pot gurgling. I went to the closet, dug out that old box I'd kept too long. The pictures spilled out, me and James with fishing poles, Mom at a picnic, Lily laughing at the fair. I flipped through them, waiting for the sting, but it didn't come. Just memories, faded like the paper. Then I saw it. The crumpled letter from Mom I'd trashed back in Harrison. I'd fished it out before we left, shoved it in my bag. Why, I don't know. I smoothed it out, read it again. Come home. We miss you. Help us. Same old tune. But there was something else. Tucked in the envelope, a smaller note I'd missed. Dad's writing, shaky like the tribute. Alvin, I left you the old watch. It's not much, but it's yours. I should have given you more. Forgive me. My breath caught. The watch, his dad's, a beat-up silver thing he'd worn every day. I hadn't seen it at the funeral, figured Mom kept it. Guess he'd hidden it for me. I sat there, turning the note over in my hands. Dad hadn't fought for me alive, but he'd tried at the end. It wasn't enough to fix it all, but it was something. I tucked the note back, slid the box under the bed. Not gone, just out of sight. Maybe I'd get the watch later, maybe not. Didn't matter right now. Sarah came down, hair messy, robe tied loose. You're up early, she said, pouring coffee. Everything okay? Yeah, I said, and this time it was true. Want to take the kids to the park later? She grinned. Only if you push the swings. Deal. That afternoon, we did. Parked down the street, sun breaking through the clouds. Mia squealed as I pushed her high. Ethan toddled after a butterfly, Sarah laughing on a bench. I caught my reflection in a puddle. Older, steadier, a guy who'd made it. Harrison was miles behind, a shadow I didn't need to chase anymore. I'd built this. Family, home, a life, and it was enough. Driving back, kids singing off-key in the back, I glanced in the rearview. They were my future, not that town, not those people. I smiled, small but real, and turned up the radio. The road ahead was clear, and I was good with that. Well, that's my story, how I lost it all, built it back, and found my way. Took a lot of miles and a few scars to get here, but I'd do it again for what I've got now. What about you? Ever had to walk away from something or someone to find what's real? I'd love to hear your take. Drop it in the comments section. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and share this story with your friends. See you soon in our next story.